Disappointment kept surging as his arm reached out, so where exactly had he gone wrong? Although the confusion could not be hidden on Kim Joo-jin's face, in that moment he could not ignore the injustice he had inadvertently created. Before his eyes, Jae-woo innocently ran forward with a naive smile. Or perhaps it was the moment he had to worry about tuition fees yet found himself drawn to her, the woman who granted the military scholarship. At that very instant the car was approaching, only a few meters away. After a thunderous crash, the helmet on Joo-jin's head was flung away. The car braked so hard that the tires hissed. In a split second, Jae-woo's piercing cry mixed with shouts, "Someone has been hit by a car, call 119 quickly." On this side his vision was hazy, his mouth filled with fresh blood. His dream of long-term service in the military shattered in an instant after a kick from his superior. The voices of the people echoed in his head, "Are you okay? He is still breathing, wake up." He could only open his eyes with immense difficulty, blaming himself for not knowing how to endure, not knowing when to turn a blind eye. His comrades kept reminding him, "Do not close your eyes, hold on a little longer." He was so exhausted that he could only mutter inwardly, "Damn it, I was just about to be discharged. If I die like this, does it count as a sacrifice?" Dying in these circumstances was truly meaningless, so why did he have to live decently and do meaningless things? Kim Joo-jin's eyelids could not help drooping, making his comrades anxious. "This will not do, wake up." Now he could hear nothing, he only focused on that towering skyscraper, wanting to climb to the top. At least dying there might feel less unjust. In an alley in San Francisco in December 1905, the bad guys were beating up a classmate with all their might. "Kick him." Words of contempt kept pouring out, "You filthy yellow monkeys. How dare you walk through here without shame?" Unbelievably, Joo-jin had survived and returned to this hairless era. Jimmy, still full of hot blood, grew even angrier when he saw his gaze. "This bastard dares to look back." Fortunately, Joo-jin quickly dodged Jimmy's powerful kick. Jimmy stopped astonished. "What is this?" He seized the opportunity and grabbed Jimmy's trousers tightly. Jimmy was taken down in surprise, only managing to curse, "You bastard." The fat one panicked and ran over Jimmy. Kim Joo-jin did not miss the chance, clenching his fist, "You son of a bitch." The other boy was stunned, his voice stammering, "Wah, what?" Before he could finish speaking, Jimmy took a punch that distorted his face. The ones standing outside could only stare, their eyes wide in disbelief at what was happening. Suddenly one of them rushed forward, not forgetting to urge the others, "Grab him, beat him." The sounds of punches and kicks rang out, mixed with dragging noises, "Beat him, crush him." Joo-jin was punched repeatedly, left with no choice but to lie still, his eyes wide as he spat out a curse, "Damn it, you cowardly Yankee. Is this a free country? This is just a place that harbors filthy racist white." Suddenly he sprang up, his face covered in injuries. "Hey, is that short Jap still alive?" Renji and Kaido responded with gazes, as cold as bullets. Quickly rushed over and shoved him down, "You damn Korean." Din had no time to react, only stammering, what is this?" At the same time, he and Kaido joined forces to beat him relentlessly. "Because of Koreans like you, we get beaten and looked down on too." Kim Joo-jin still sat there, his face full of shock. "These crazy Japs, what are they doing?" Clapped his hands a few times after finishing the job. Renji curled his lips, "You insolent bastard, you learned a few words and think you are equal to me." Kaido did not let it pass either, "Just a Korean, what is so special?" He could only sit silently in his tattered state, listening to their insults. "You filthy Koreans, just wait until tomorrow, next time we will call more people." He took a deep breath, calmed himself and whispered, "Status panel." However, nothing appeared except a newspaper blown by the wind, and it slapped straight into Kim Joo-jin's face. He angrily snatched the newspaper and shouted, "What the hell is this? With this reincarnation I should at least have some privilege." Kim Joo-jin's scream echoed through the alley, "This second life is truly miserable." He could only recall the original owner's memories from childhood in 1893. Kim Joo-jin. That was the starting point of his new life. His parents had crossed the sea to come here to study. By fate with the people here they married and he was born. He remembered his past life memories at the age of 6 when Kim Joo-jin was startled by the holy seed nightmare. His friend casually reminded him, "Sleep." Kim Joo-jin's mind then pictured him searching for scraps of paper. "At first I planned to use future knowledge to test things, but then I thought of stocks. I have to buy stocks. Which place is profitable now?" Not long after, his foot stopped right in front of an empty beer bottle. But the reality of the 20th century was far more cruel. This era had blatant racial discrimination. If a yellow man wanted to make money, he could only celebrate with the KKK. In his heart, another ambition was surging. Kim Joo-jin still had the mood to read the newspaper, Korean Empire, Japan-Korea Treaty. At this moment, he recalled the stern face of Admiral Hansey, who once said, eliminate the Japanese. His full name was William Frederick Hansey Geirer, 1880–1959. Fierce determination suddenly arose in Kim Jujin's heart. The only good Jap is a dead Jap. Perhaps he held in his hands the memories and knowledge of a 21st-century Korean army officer, a graduate of a prestigious university. The historical events about to happen appeared vividly in his mind. A world war would break out within 10 years. More than 30 years later would be World War II, then Pearl Harbor and the Pacific War. Yes, he would take advantage of the war. He kept thinking about the gleaming silver bullet flying at extreme speed. When the bullet hit the target, it instantly exploded and smoke and fire filled the space. The scene excited Kim Jujin. He dreamed of advancing in rank. Time passed quickly. By January 1911, the house of Kim Jujin. A drawn-out voice sounded so. One holding the newspaper and looking up was Hyun Kim Sang-jun, the father of Kim Jujin. You want to be a soldier. The one being addressed was Kim Jujin, now only 17 years old. After hearing this, Sang-jun could not help but sneer and comment, "Your clothes are torn, you just got back and already want to be a soldier. How amusing." Jujin could only smile and complain, "It is too hard, those Japs have sold off all their Bushido spirit." He even proudly thumped his chest and grinned, "But I also taught them a lesson, now becoming a soldier would be good." Hearing that, Sang-jun could only shake his head, impressive, very impressive. He pulled out a cigarette and reminded him, the profession of arms is not an easy path. But Sang-jun did not know that Kim Jujin had been a soldier in his previous life, and he understood this clearly, which was why he felt the hardship. Knowing nothing could be done, he immediately changed direction. "Your skin color will affect your future." Sang-jun said nothing more, only exhaled a puff of smoke. His expression grew serious. "If you only become a soldier I would say nothing, but being an officer is different. So you intend to confront the world of white people in this country head-on." He still looked at Sang-jun with determined eyes. "Father, whose son am I?" A man willing to endure discrimination, to change the fate of his family. One of the first 20 Koreans to gain a foothold in San Francisco, his father worried because he had struggled for many years to secure his position. Kim Jujin understood his father and sincerely reassured him, "Do not worry, father." He smiled and raised his thumb, "Whose son am I?" For a moment Sang-jun paused slightly. The corner of his lips finally lifted. Sang-jun stubbed out the cigarette and said, "Yes, that is my son." In fact, he had prepared beforehand because he knew his son wanted to become an officer. He slung his coat over his shoulder and said, "Go change your clothes, there is a place we need to visit." Kim Jujin looked up in surprise. "Father, this is..." The sign in front of him left him stunned, Korean National Association. Sang-jun stepped forward, adjusted his hat and said, "If you want to be an officer you must enter a military academy. Your enrollment will involve politics and society, so we must prepare carefully." As soon as they stepped inside, the person within warmly welcomed them. "It has been a long time." Sang-jun turned to Jujin and said, "Greet him. This is someone who shares your aspiration, always talking about military affairs." Young-min stood straight and introduced himself. "I am Young-min, also known as Young-min." Jujin looked at that face in surprise. Young-min, the famous independence activist. Immediately, he tightly held Young-min's hand, then turned forward. "Greetings, sir, I am Kim Jujin." The man looked Kim Jujin up and down and kept praising him, tall and refined, truly a rare talent. "You are indeed fortunate." Suddenly, a scoff rang out. "You are praising him like this because you want to ask for more money, right?" Sang-jun glanced at the other person and smiled. "That is right, I almost forgot to introduce this person." However, Kim Jujin's face darkened, completely opposite to the man's attitude. That person could it be? As the shoes stepped closer, the compliments continued. "He is a true scholar with a doctorate from Princeton. He will certainly be very helpful for your admission." Hearing this, he could not help but admire. "Though young, he is truly outstanding." The other man approached while smiling lightly. "You make me embarrassed once again." Meanwhile, he remained standing silently. Could it be that among Koreans today only this man stands out? Not long after, that hand extended before Kim Jujin. "Greetings, I have heard a great deal about you, Kim Jujin." He stared without blinking, trying to recall the most famous figure in modern Korean history. The friendly face of the uncle came into Jujin's view along with the introduction. "I am Seung-min. The name is Seung-min." He suddenly remembered Seung-min's true identity, Crown Prince Lee. The two clasped each other's hands, as if reunited after a long time. Jujin smiled warmly and bowed. "Kim Jujin, it is a pleasure to meet you." Before the joy could last, that hand quickly rested on his shoulder. "I heard you wish to enter the military academy. That is a great and admirable dream." Seung-min smiled, yet his question was filled with scrutiny. "May I ask why you want to enroll?" Kim Jujin felt a chill down his spine. and only dared to swallow. Noticing this, Sang Jun reminded him, Jujin, why are you hesitating? Just speak honestly about your story. Inwardly he was anxious. This cannot go wrong. Seung Min is a cold and calculating man, always weighing his own interests. If this matter brings him no benefit, he will ignore it. He may even harm you. However, that very political man is the one who can greatly help him at this moment. Right after that, Jujin adjusted his expression and smiled as naturally as possible, if that is the case. He stepped forward and began to speak along with his inner thoughts, the great Han Empire. I must do everything to appease it. After thinking it through, Kim Jujin spoke without hesitation. Everything has collapsed. Seung Min was startled, unable to believe what he had just heard. Sang Jun and Young Min looked even more tense than when they were angry. He did not care about those gazes. Kim Jujin continued to bow. Although the blood of great Han still flows in my veins, under the laws of China and the United States, I have already obtained American citizenship. I believe this is a weapon that only I possess, something no one here has. Suddenly his voice rang out sternly, therefore. You mean you will shed blood to prove your loyalty and live as an American citizen? He turned back, shaking his finger as he explained, what I truly mean is that I have the right, as an American citizen, I have the right to speak about the direction of this nation. How could the opinion of a yellow monkey ever reach the ears of those in power in Washington, D.C.? But what must I do for my voice to reach them? Young Min could not hide his surprise at these arguments, yet he smiled in approval. I understand. You choose the military path because it is the easiest road to advancement. Bold, yet it sounds reasonable. Though Kim Jujin had found someone in tune to continue the discussion, I heard Gu Sung is training soldiers in Nebraska. So where do you intend to find officers to command them? However, Young Min's words faltered slightly. Well, about that. Before he could finish, Seung Min interrupted. If you join the American army and receive training. He released his hand, as if inviting the young man. Are you dreaming of persuading the American army to let you command troops like Young Min Koa, and then march straight into Kyoto? Seung Min's expression changed clearly. Exactly what he had been waiting for. No, that is impossible. The Japanese Empire is an ally of Britain and shares common interests with the United States. No one understands this better than you, uncle. He shifted his expression again and smiled slyly. A student who has such a broad view of the world's situation. Therefore, we must resolve this issue through diplomacy. Gaining the support of the great powers is the fastest and most certain way to reclaim a free great Han. Proposed idea was immediately rejected. Nonsense. Young Min angrily questioned Seung Min. Brother Seung Min, do you truly believe the great powers will care about Joseon's independence? The two looked at each other and silence fell. Soon after, they turned their attention to Kim Jujin. What do you think? Jujin widened his eyes at the sudden question. What caught his attention was Seung Min's smirk. Damn it, that man looks as if he is about to do something terrible. The entire room now smelled of gunpowder. In any case, everything was ready. Jujin covered his mouth and coughed lightly, trying to hide his confusion. From now on it is my turn. After a while, he slowly began to analyze. Persuading the great powers through diplomacy will be very difficult. Seeing Jujin argue, Yangmin jumped up happily. Exactly. Though Kim Jujin did not answer directly, he continued speaking. Japan is merely the chief manager of East Asia on behalf of the great powers. As long as Japan complies with the demands of America and Britain, they will not intervene. He seemed somewhat dissatisfied and urged, then we must even more so, however, he quickly refuted before Seung Min could continue. If that manager grows greedy and pockets everything for himself, the situation will be different. The two of them were left speechless, their faces weary. He continued explaining that Japan would soon betray Britain and America, targeting Manchuria and China. Their patience would last only about 30 years. These sharp arguments made him pause. If what you say is true, as long as Japan remains content being our manager, this will not happen. Kim Jujin had anticipated everything and quickly shook his head. Japan cannot do that. This left Seung Min bewildered. Why? He painted the image of a hand forced to stamp beneath a blade. If Japan could do that, they would not have swallowed Joseon whole from the start. We have 5,000 years of history and culture, a population nearly half of theirs. Swallowing such a nation would only give them a stomachache. As Kim Jujin said this, the seriousness on his face grew clearer, yet they still did it. In contrast, Seung Min's smile gradually lost its humanity. Japan swallowed Joseon because it was mad with hunger. I feel as though I am speaking with a diplomat of a great power, no longer a student. You are right, you understand Japan's nature well. They will not stop and will advance onto the continent. He stepped forward following Seung Min's words. until that day comes. I believe people like you, Seung-min, must strive harder so the world recognizes that Joseon still exists. Only then will they remember us and not forget. Young Min, who had been silent, now spoke. If everything unfolds as you say, Jujin, would that not make what I do meaningless? Jujin immediately refuted, that is impossible. When Japan becomes entangled with the great powers, the first thing they must think of is Joseon. Without people like you, Young Min, how would the great powers know whether Joseon wants independence or wishes to live under Japan's control? He had heard such words many times and stood stunned. But Young Min did not know that inside, Kim Jujin was overjoyed. His eyes gleamed as if he had found fat prey, with that final sweet line perfect. Seung Min was also visibly pleased by these words. He glanced back and forth between father and son and praised, how did you raise your son like this? With such a young man, the future of Great Han will be bright. Sang Jun calmly smoked and looked at him. I thought he was merely a hot-headed troublemaker. I did not expect him to hide such thoughts. Kim Jujin could only smile awkwardly and scratch his cheek. Young Min gradually brightened again and pointed at him meaningfully. Brother Seung Min, to enter the military academy one needs a recommendation letter from a senator. Correct. If it is you, surely you know a few senators. Despite all the flattery, Seung Min still gritted his teeth and refused. I am afraid that will not be possible. The other three were all astonished and speechless. He immediately explained, yet there was a strange slyness in his manner. It would be a waste for someone as talented as you to become an ordinary soldier. I mean, I do not wish to help you enter the military academy. Kim Jujin was so shocked he could not stop himself from pouting. What? Seung Min shamelessly patted his chest and tried hard to persuade. How about this? You graduate from university and work with me in diplomacy and politics. I will gladly write you a recommendation letter to Princeton. He panicked and did not dare respond. This is madness. What is he saying? He was wrong. He only wanted to impress him to gain his help. But it turned out he had gone too far. Now that man wanted to possess him as his own. What should he do? In his confusion, Young Min suddenly roared in anger, Brother Seung Min, do you realize you have crossed the line? His face flushed red, teeth clenched as he glared at Seung Min. Young Min felt indignant on behalf of Kim Jujin. Just as Seung Min had his own path and he had his own path, that young man had his as well. Did he intend to bend a young man's dream and future to suit his own will? Yet that man still stood still, looking at Yan Min without the slightest fear. Standing in the middle witnessing this scene, he trembled. The two giants of the era were facing each other. It truly was not the time for this. If this happened in the wrong place, the Korean National Association in America could be shattered. Suddenly, Seung Min's clear laughter shattered the tense atmosphere. That man cheerfully applauded Young Min. My goodness, that is how you are. If you would charge in over a mere joke, what would we do? Do not worry, I will arrange for you to meet Senator Flynn with a letter of recommendation. You may enter any military academy. Kim Jujin hurriedly thanked him. Thank you very much. A moment later, Seung Min turned to leave without forgetting to bid farewell. Then I will take my leave first. Even so, that man still harbored other thoughts. Kim Jujin did not expect that among this bunch of fools there would be someone like him. That brat, I will turn him into my man. The train raced across the barren desert at a terrifying speed. Kim Jujin sat resting yet still irritated. The reporters nearly drove him insane. Luckily Seung Min saved him in time, otherwise he would have missed the train. In any case, he had obtained the letter of recommendation and arrived here, so he let it go. Before long, he climbed to the second ground level and continued following the map. He carried a rather large suitcase in his hand, and Kim Jujin finally set foot before the gate of his dreams. Jujin's heart overflowed with joy. He had finally arrived. This was the beginning for his second life to become extraordinary in a wonderful way. He walked forward with firm determination. Just wait and see. Kim Jujin carried his excitement toward the gate ahead, West Point. However, life was not like a dream. Soon his expression twisted in strained delight. But what was this? Why was this here? Before his eyes stood a suit of armor covered in sharp spikes. The officer's shout echoed through the room. Wake up immediately. Ethan, as an instructor, rigorously inspected Kim Jujin. Progress was slow. These recruits had not yet entered camp. Instead, they had to undergo 3 weeks of continuous training. The tents outside the parade ground, this place was called the Monster Barracks. But this he had experienced in his previous life. The army 100 years ago was completely different from what he had imagined. David appeared before Kim Jujin with cruelty. The monkeys are not allowed to leave the cage. That man forced the cadets to wear the spiked armor. Kim Jujin clearly saw how much harsher it was. Tran Tru did not dare step inside. He could only apologize and accept it. As soon as he finished speaking, Kim Jujin was struck in the face by David. That man showed no mercy to the cadets. Have you not learned to speak like a human? Then stop standing here causing trouble. Get out, monkey. Kim Jujin's eyes were still filled with fury at David. That man curled his lips in disdain. Look at that face. Because of those words, Kim Jujin realized he had revealed too much. Damn it. His expression slipped. David grew angry at his expression, preparing another punch. It seemed this face needed fixing. Gritting his teeth, that hateful monkey. In a flash, an arm seized his hand tightly. David stared at his own hand in shock. What the hell was this? The other party kept a cold tone. I do not care how you treat the recruits. Vicent frowned, but what was that monkey business just now? That man did not dare provoke him and conceded, fine, I will call him a cannibal instead, choose. Hearing that, his grip tightened further. If you say it again, you will be beat. Vicent did not hesitate to warn, I will truly kill you. David was in pain, yet silently stared at his hand. Only after a long while did that man steady himself and withdraw his hand. David did not want further trouble and stepped back. Damn it. That man slammed the door hard to vent his anger. When the air calmed, Vicent turned to speak with Kim Jujin. I heard there was an additional Asian this year I came to see. I saw you in trouble. He was still stunned yet thanked him. Thank you for saving me. Vicent quickly smiled warmly. No need for courtesy. Nice to meet you. I am Vicent Podikali. Jujin bowed and shook his hand. It is a pleasure. I am Kim Jujin. Vicent maintained a senior air and explained briefly. Sometimes a few fools think white people are born privileged. You do not need to fear. Few would dare behave that way towards someone they will meet again after becoming officers. In any case, I will return to the Philippines after graduation. Let us get along well, Kim Jujin. After the conversation, Jujin also grew closer to him. Fire of passion rekindled in his heart. After all, this place was still inhabited by people. Before long, Kim Jujin pushed open the door to the room. Astonishing his friends, he had returned. Before his eyes, the scene of a gambling loss was clear. All right, everyone pay up, damn it. Kim Jujin stepped forward to question them. What is going on? White looked back awkwardly. Ah, we bet on whether you would return. The next second, his face brightened. $2 for returning within an hour, $2 for not returning, $1 for never returning. James spoke quickly. That guy took all our money. He could only sigh helplessly. At least they did not call him a monkey. It did not ruin the mood. After thinking it through, Kim Jujin sat on the bed and joined in. Horse number 1 returned within the hour. Where is my share? White generously handed over the money. Here, take it. Pointed at himself as if introducing, thanks to you I made money. I am White David Eisenhower. Seeing Kim Jujin's strange look, White hurriedly explained, the name is too long, call me I. He no longer listened. Kim Jujin's pupils shrank in shock. Wait, who did he just say he was? White Day Eisenhower, 1890–1968. In 1943, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces. In 1945, Military Governor of the U.S. Zone in Germany. In 1945, Army Chief of Staff. In 1948, President of Columbia University. In 1951, Supreme Allied Commander Europe. In 1953, the 34th President of the United States. Receiving no response, he tried to persuade them. Actually, I entered because of the free football program. I wanted Annapolis but was too old. Coming from Kansas to New York was overwhelming. James sitting beside him looked bored. Yet in Kim Jujin's heart, White was like a mighty god, the man who would later crush Hitler and step into the White House. Silence was not good, he replied to avoid awkwardness. I am Kim Jujin from San Francisco, a Korean American. Before he could finish, Omar moved closer. Are you not Chinese? The question stirred unease in him. Do not tell me they. From handing over money to complaining, Kim Jujin was shaken. Damn it, I lost another round. I am speechless before this group of gambling addicts. After paying up, Omar introduced himself. I am Omar Bradley. James did not understand. I am hungry. Omar pointed at James. This fool is James Van Fleet. Taking in this information, Kim Jujin took a long moment to swallow it. All major historical figures gathered here. Omar Nelson Bradley, the 17th Army Chief of Staff, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chairman of the NATO Military Committee. James Van Fleet, Commander of the U.S. 8th Army, fought in both World War II and the Korean War. West Point in 1911, what on earth was this? At the same time, the American flag fluttered in the sea breeze, the trillion-dollar nation, a nickname born from a defense budget exceeding 100 billion won. This clearly demonstrates the overwhelming military power of the United States. Some people even compare the U.S. presidential election to an election for the entire planet. Trained in such a military environment, he truly began to feel excited, because he was certain that he would graduate with the highest honor. Ethan's darkened face suddenly shoved the door open, instantly shattering Kim Jujin's dream. He walked into the classroom, glanced around, then continued his work, his blood boiling at the sight of those naive faces. Listen carefully. Today I will teach you your first lesson about the tactics of the great United States. He and Vicent listened to Ethan's words with full concentration, and now, he pushed up his glasses as if signaling the start, then began. The scene shifted to a skyscraper in the heart of the city. Kim Jujin had just finished exercising and was breathing heavily, truly exhausting. With the experience of having once lived as a veteran, he could be certain. Tactics currently being taught at West Point. He frowned and widened his eyes, his gloomy face revealing utter despair. He had forgotten that this was America in the early 20th century. It did not matter, the main enemies were not regular armies but Mexican bandits and Native Americans. Therefore, most of this was merely a legacy from the Civil War half a century ago. The more he listened, the more he felt his mind being stuffed with trash. Even the memories of his previous life seemed disturbed. This was just a meaningless test meant to assess memorization ability. Future American education values creativity, but here, that simply did not exist. Even so, he could not let his grades decline. He had to stand out above everyone else. That was the first step to becoming an American general. After those words of self-encouragement, Kim Jujin was determined to complete the test with resounding determination. His entire body was like that of a madman, pounding the desk and shouting. He would use future knowledge to conquer these exams. Vicent was initially embarrassed but gradually grew closer to Kim Jujin. Impressive, you could join the Corps of Engineers. He suddenly stood up and looked at Vicent with curiosity. Corps of Engineers, what do you mean? Vicent was slightly surprised, not understanding him. What do you mean, Anastasio Quevedo? At West Point, the top-scoring cadets are selected for the Corps of Engineers. Hearing this, he became even more confused by information like being on equal footing. What is that supposed to mean? Although Kim Jujin recalled those muscular figures with a hint of sentiment, in his memory the Corps of Engineers always whispered temptingly, "Tonight before sleeping, you will have to think carefully about this." Although Kim Jujin was surprised by the information he had just received, outstanding students entered the Corps of Engineers. He imagined the Corps of Engineers crazily chasing after him, his face turning pale. They said, "You rank first in class. You must join the engineers. Together we will dig passionately in the safe rear lines, kid." Jujin's face darkened with irritation. "You think I worked myself to exhaustion here just for that?" The more he thought, the angrier he became, slamming his pen onto the desk. He needed to go to the front lines, not the rear. Only then could he earn military merit. Kim Jujin suddenly spoke coldly, leaving Vicent stunned. Then there is no other way. Time passed quickly. Everyone was playing ball together. Some young men outside kept cheering excitedly. "This is insane." Kim scored again. Some of them shouted, "What is that yellow guy doing with a bat? Lower your head." Although Kim Jujin smiled politely, he thought to himself, "I guess I should play too." After some time on the stage, Clarence earnestly advised them, "You are not here merely to become officers. You are here to fulfill the noble duty entrusted by the nation, to protect your comrades and, if necessary, to sacrifice for the fatherland." However, Clarence did not seem to notice. The sun was blazing. His speech left the cadets drenched in sweat. Inwardly they cursed. "If he says one more sentence, it feels like we will explode." Clarence had not realized that Kim Jujin was extremely displeased inside. "Stop lying. This is the third time already." Yet what Clarence said next left him stunned. "A distinguished guest is about to visit our United States-China alliance. The state guest wants to see the natural state of West Point." Suddenly Clarence's attitude was no longer gentle. He told them to behave normally. Kim Jujin grew anxious, sweat pouring down. Damn it, the PTSD is acting up again. He could not help recalling his previous life. When he was still in service, the CFC commander once came to inspect. Back then he only wanted to die and be done with it. But just how important is this person that the principal is using such force? After dismissal, everyone went to lunch. Kim Jujin followed behind. White excitedly waved at the right moment. "Hey, Kim Jujin, sit with us." Yet Kim Jujin did not agree easily. "Do you not feel uncomfortable sitting with a yellow man?" White frowned in displeasure. "Yellow or whatever. If you feel uncomfortable, then do not eat the food of this nation." He turned to ask James, "Right?" Unexpectedly, the guy was stuffing food into his mouth like a starving tiger, right? Seeing Kim Jujin arrive, Omar said, "Great, you are here. We are missing one person." He said seriously, "We are discussing an extremely important issue." Kim Jujin frowned, worry clearly showing on his face. He silently evaluated the group before him. They looked foolish, but they are surely future stars. Serious discussion among heroes who will write the history of the American military. My heart is about to bloom. Kim Jujin thought it over carefully and then sat down with them. White suddenly fell silent. and looked at him meaningfully. A few seconds later he finally spoke, according to me. Kim Jujin also stayed silent to focus on listening. White's expression was solemn. American football is the ultimate sport. Kim Jujin was stunned after hearing that. What? White continued confidently, American football is the foundation of military science, the darling of strategy and tactics. He was absorbed in his own story, ignoring everyone around. Those baseball nerds only know how to throw balls, swing bats and run madly around a square field. Omar held his head and cried in disappointment. Your vision is too narrow. He pointed at White and said, of course baseball is the foundation, American football just stole rugby from those damned bastards. Hearing that, he angrily shouted, who made that rugby sound? Omar continued arguing that sport is chaotic, impossible to calculate, lacking elegance. White immediately retorted, it is not that it cannot be calculated, it is that you do not follow the formula. Standing still for 3 hours is what you call elegant. They kept arguing. Do you know how much psychological warfare happens while standing still? One step from the infielder, one twitch of the pitcher's finger can turn the tide. Kim Jujin was speechless after hearing it. So this is their serious discussion. Seeing Kim Jujin distracted, Omar called out, Kim Jujin. He startled and responded, what? Omar gave him a choice. Which side are you on, me or that guy? White remained confident. Kim Jujin clearly chose American football. That guy has quite the strategic mind. But Kim Jujin frowned and made his decision. What nonsense are you talking about? Of course it is baseball. White angrily shouted, traitor. Kim Jujin's expression darkened. How dare you insult the noble sport of baseball, you barbarians obsessed with football. While they were arguing, Ethan appeared in fury. Who told you to jump around during mealtime? Get outside immediately. Punished them all, ordering them to run 10 laps around the parade ground. They had no choice but to obey, their footsteps echoing in rhythm across the field. After who knows how long, Kim Jujin returned to the shower room clean, still talking about baseball. As soon as he entered, James asked Kim Jujin, have you heard? Kim Jujin looked blank, knowing nothing. He revealed, the state guest is about to visit West Point. Kim Jujin asked in disbelief, who is coming? James tried to remember vaguely. Who was it? I must have heard the name before. Jujin felt helpless. He mentioned it, then forgot again. But he remembered the important detail. It is said to be a famous Japanese general. Kim Jujin's expression turned serious. A famous general. He stroked his chin and analyzed. If it is a famous general, the first person that comes to mind is the great independence activist, teacher Mutaguchi Rania. After thinking for a while, James suddenly exclaimed, I remember now. However, upon hearing that name, Jujin's expression grew even more displeased. Hakira. It seemed he was not unfamiliar with this person, Hakira. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye it was already the next day. James looked at Jujinder in surprise. What is wrong with him? Omar immediately realized. He is like this because he is about to meet Hakira. James did not have time to react to the news. Why? Omar looked back at him in surprise. You really do not know. James stood frozen in the situation. White then explained to him, James, Kim Jujin is Korean. James nodded at once. I know. Seeing that he was still confused, Omar could not help but sigh. Our James only knows what he has studied. White explained further so James could understand. Korea has now been annexed into which country? Only then did he realize. James turned to look at Kim Jujin. I am sorry, although somewhat awkward, he was still extremely polite. It is fine. Jujin continued seriously. You understand, soldiers only follow orders from their superior. Hakiro is no different. In the end, they are just pawns for politicians. Why, think about it. Kim Jujin agreed. Exactly. Suddenly the atmosphere fell silent. James hesitated for a moment before continuing. So what now? But Jujin's words made James spit out his bread. If you are really angry, then just shoot him. Omar burst out laughing. Are you crazy? Even with bread stuck to his face, James still tried to explain. No, I just wanted to encourage you in my own way. Kim Jujin ignored them and merely shook his head helplessly. Oh, what a headache. No, from the start I only felt uncomfortable. Not that I want to fire a terror bullet into Hakiro's head. Suddenly Kim Jujin spoke up. James, if you want to encourage me, there is something you can do. Although James was still a little confused, he did not refuse. What is it? Just say it. He saw Kim Jujin reach toward his loaf of bread. James's face turned displeased. Oh, my bread. He gave a sly smile and chewed the bread that James could no longer hold back. Tears streamed down from agitation. Bastard. Kim Jujin even laughed in amusement to provoke him. If I am full, then I will not need to use any tools, just relax. At that moment a figure appeared and caught James's attention. Jujin panicked when he saw Jason suddenly appear before him. Jujin's expression turned flustered at the sight of Jason. He had been so happy that he did not notice the instructor had arrived. Parade ground, once again the parade ground. However, Jason calmly called out, Cadet Kim Jujin. A distinguished guest wants to speak with you, follow me. Kim Jujin stood stiffly in place, pardon. Negative thoughts began to surface in his mind. A terror bullet, am I finished? From afar, someone was already waiting for them. Jason spoke politely, I have brought Cadet Kim Jujin, Admiral. The other party requested I would like a private conversation with him. Could you give us some privacy? Jason was so surprised that he froze, yes sir. After that, Jason suddenly looked at Kim Jujin. He immediately put on a pitiful expression. Please do not leave me alone with him. In the end, Jason found a way to slip away, understood, call me if you need anything. Jujin cursed inwardly, damn it. The other man quickly spoke, you know who I am, do you not? May I speak more freely, Cadet Kim Jujin? That man was the hero of the Battle of Tsushima, the Japanese Admiral Hakiro. Kim Jujin swallowed nervously. Quickly he forced himself to calm down, all right. Hakiro slowly took out a cigarette. You can speak Japanese, can you not? Kim Jujin did not hide anything. I learned it naturally from my surroundings. That man asked again, you must often meet Japanese people as well. Hakiro spoke in a mocking tone. They surely do not want to see a Japanese running around on American soil, do they? Kim Jujin stated confidently, I am American. Hakiro did not hesitate to ask directly, do white people see you that way as well? You should know that better than anyone. Jujin was left flustered by Hakiro's words, not knowing how to respond. Hakiro suddenly spoke, so you have nothing to ask the hound of this invasion. Kim Jujin replied calmly, the relationship between the United States of America and the Empire of Japan is one of mutual benefit. Calling me an invasion hound may not be appropriate. Hakiro continued to question, so you will treat me as an American rather than a Korean, correct? That man remarked, you look more like a politician than a soldier. But Kim Jujin raised his hand to stop him. This skin color tells me that Washington, D.C. has no place for me. Hakiro could not help but laugh. In the end, he laughed freely. Hakiro looked at Kim Jujin with a different gaze. Interesting, yes, the military is the best choice. That man did not hesitate to praise Jujin. A young man full of talent and ambition yet lonely in this world, you have the qualities of an outstanding soldier. Jujin bowed in response, thank you for the compliment. Hakiro suddenly proposed, would you like to come to Japan? Kim Jujin could not believe his ears. What did you say? Hakiro emphasized once more, I am serious. White people will never yield space to people of color. No matter what a yellow monkey does, it is still just a yellow monkey. The cigarette quickly fell to the ground. Hakiro crushed the cigarette under his foot and reminded him, even we Japanese who just defeated Russia still cannot escape that prejudice. That man pointed at Jujin, no matter how outstanding you are, that skin color. Just because of that skin color, in the end you are no different from being shackled. After saying that, Hakiro clenched his fist. This is the time for Asians to unite. That man invited him, come with me, I will give you a position you deserve. Kim Jujin still hesitated, I am very grateful for this opportunity. However, I remain firm, I am a soldier of the United States of America. The reason Kim Jujin gave was something no one expected, I get terribly seasick. Hakiro could not hide his regret, what a pity. That man slowly walked away, but learning from failure is the privilege of youth. Before leaving, Hakiro did not forget to say, enjoy your youth to the fullest. Kim Jujin said nothing, only silently watching him. He thought to himself, you should enjoy the present as well, because the country you risked your life to build will become hell. Soon after, Kim Jujin returned to the room. Everyone saw him and immediately jumped up in joy. Kim Jujin is back. James and the others could not hold back and hurriedly asked, what did Hakiro say? What Hakiro, did he say he would kill you? Everyone in the room reacted exaggeratedly. Or did he tell you to go to Japan? James shouted, traitor, there is a traitor among us, but Kim Jujin quickly quelled the chaos. I am not going, idiot, I just grew up in San Francisco. James was still stunned in surprise. Ah, right. Kim Jujin also reminded him, that is right, idiot, do not treat me like a foreigner. Omar patted his shoulder in satisfaction. Well done. He took out a pack of cigarettes and offered, to celebrate your safe return, have a smoke. Kim Jujin did not hesitate to pull one out as well when he heard that. Omar turned back and told the others, you idiots, what are you standing there for, come along too. Hearing that, the others hurried over one by one, yeah, get over here, idiot. Everyone chatted cheerfully, you did not really shoot him, right, anyway Kim Jujin immediately felt that his choice had been absolutely correct. Yeah, this place is my home. However, just this group was not enough. Kim Jujin, look here, look at this. Kim Jujin recalled those close friends again. If he counted the ones who had been close to him back then, There were only these guys, Senior Vicent and Anastasio. Everyone at West Point, classmates, upperclassmen and underclassmen, would later become my superiors or subordinates. My network was too limited. But how are you planning to smoke? Cigarettes are hard to come by. Kim Jujin felt a trace of doubt. That was right. These guys were the strange ones. In this era, not associating with people of color was normal, so why was there someone like that? He looked at the cigarette in his hand with hesitation. Was there any way, or should he use baseball to draw them in, build a story of youthful sports? Just from that thought alone, he pondered for a long time. Suddenly he asked, "Who did you get those cigarettes from?" Omar answered immediately, "Who else? Senior Harith, the king of dull gathering." Hearing that, Jujin seemed to think of something, right? How could he not profit from this? Who in this world dislikes fruit? Even if I am a yellow monkey, as long as I wave a few classic carcinogens in front of them, racial barriers will collapse like the Berlin Wall. Although he felt stuck again, how should he trade? In San Francisco I know how, but around here I have no connections at all. Suddenly someone appeared and startled him. Ah, here it is. Kim Jujin turned around and saw it was Logan. He relaxed a little. I thought it was an instructor. What is it? He informed him that someone had come looking for him in the reception room. Kim Jujin was very suspicious. A visitor. In the reception room, there was only the sound of heavy breathing. The other person tried to steady his breath. I thought I was going to die from exhaustion. Kim Jujin replied coldly, "Thank you for coming here." That person was Kim Yuzin, the second son of the Kim Sang-jun family. He had not only come here, he had spent 3 days getting here. Kim Jujin felt truly uncomfortable at the thought of going back, yet his attitude remained cold, not moved in the slightest. Yuzin rushed up to him. "Why do you have to be a soldier and make me suffer like this? Did I tell you to come?" Yuzin pouted in disdain. "As the eldest son you must shoulder the family. You should be able to act like the head too." It was not hard for him to guess that mother had told you to come see me, right? Yuzin did not bother to deny it. You know it well. He took out a box. Then you must have guessed this too. Kim Jujin was shocked. No way. Yuzin opened the box. Inside was a steaming meal. Eat. Yuzin was not surprised at all, just as I thought. Damn it, even though South Korea was on the rise and his mouth was watering, Jujin worried that the smell would spread outside. He looked nervously toward the door. Mommy Ruth Carter, a West Point janitor, appeared and shouted loudly, "I just finished cleaning, and what is that smell?" Mommy spoke irritably. "Good heavens, what is that thing? Throw it away at once." Jujin tried to explain. This is a famous dish from Korea." Suddenly Kim Jujin thought of something. Wait, thinking about it. These people clock in and out, right? Kim Jujin quickly came up with a solution. Ah, here it is. A way for me to break racial barriers and expand my network. He stood up and walked over to Mommy, Mrs. Carter. Can those of us who understand the pain of people of color speak frankly with each other? Do die in heart, there was only one wish. Even if you came to visit me, do not come back again. As usual, everyone had to follow activities set by their superiors. The West Point schedule was fencing. Next was boxing. After that was wrestling. The activities did not stop there, free exercises. They continued training with gymnastics, and it was followed by horseback riding. Finally, before finishing, there was additional swimming practice. It completely drained a person, so even the young recruits who had passed the rigorous selection process of the great nation. After a hard day of training, everyone complained, "I am hungry." Everyone lay wearily on the grass. "I am starving." This was nothing unusual. It was their state after every day of training. White looked weakly at the pack of cigarettes. "Not to mention, I am out of cigarettes." James kept complaining. "Is this a prison or a school?" White noticed the difference, and yet, he was surprised at Kim Jujin's condition. "You are completely fine." James asked curiously, "Are you not hungry?" He answered honestly, "Not really." James could not believe his ears. "What the hell is that? Is this some kind of Eastern mysticism? Are you absorbing chakra from around you?" Kim Jujin sneered, "Seeing you still talking nonsense, you must be fine, James." Everyone's eyes lit up at what he took out then. Turned out Kim Jujin had hidden bread in his clothes. "I suppose you do not need this." James and the others immediately knelt in worship. "O Divine One," Kim Jujin laughed, "worship me, you fledglings." Very quickly, they devoured the bread. James suddenly remembered and asked, "But where did you get this?" Omar was suspicious. "You did not steal it, did you?" Kim Jujin expressed disappointment in them. "You start doubting me right after eating." He quickly reassured them, "Relax, it is left over from the warehouse." Omar was still uneasy and asked again, "How did you get it?" Kim Jujin refused to answer. "I cannot disclose it because there is a confidentiality agreement." James warned, "You know the rules. Those things are always broken." Immediately the three of them turned feral. "Can you tell us how you got it? Do not force us to use violence." Kim Jujin only sighed. What a pain. But he remained calm and curled his lips into a faint smirk. And Kim Jujin said impatiently, "Oh, I really did not want to say it, but it seems there is no other way." He asked, "You know there are black people working at the school, right?" They replied in unison, "Of course we know." Kim Jujin said casually, "They brought me this bread." James and White were dumbfounded. "Why, do not tell me you used your looks to seduce them." He did not say it outright, only hinted that among people of color there was a special bond, you understand. Jujin arrogantly declared, "Anyway, if you follow me, at least you will not starve." James and White cheered repeatedly, "King Kim Jujin, King Kim Jujin." Only Omar's face darkened, "I am jealous." His expression was far from friendly. "Now that you are full, shall we take a walk?" Jujin did not refuse, "Sounds good." The two of them walked off alone to a corner. Omar asked directly, "As far as I know they go to work and then go home every day, right?" Jujin nodded in confirmation, "That is right." Omar quickly reasoned, "That means they can bring things from outside into West Point." James felt as if he had been struck by lightning when he heard this, but Omar only glanced at him and smirked. Omar spoke slowly, for example. Kim Jujin guessed the other man's intention and cut him off. "Fatima, a pack of $50. Transaction was completed instantly, without any bargaining. Omar said seriously, "I hope to cooperate with you, General Kim." Kim Jujin replied cheerfully, "We hope you visit again next time. Let everything unfold naturally, and I will become the most skilled smuggler in West Point. Of course, if I wanted to seize everything in this small community, there would be consequences." Although Kim Jujin began to get acquainted with everyone, greeting the seniors, "Hello, sir." Walter said irritably, "Senior, I do not remember ever having any monkey as a junior." Yet Kim Jujin was not angry, instead he laughed with delight, "You really make me laugh." He opened a book and smiled slyly, "Senior Vicent keeps praising you endlessly, saying your guiding skills surpass even the instructor. May I ask about something I do not understand?" Walter gritted his teeth to suppress his anger. "What is it?" He shouted uncontrollably, "Why do I have to be like this?" However, Kim Jujin understood the other party and opened the book. The moment he looked inside, Walter's attitude changed completely. It would be disrespectful for a cadet to refuse helping a junior understand. "All right, where are you stuck?" Kim Jujin asked cheerfully. "Right here, this part, senior." Walter instructed while putting the documents into his pocket. "This part is difficult, solve it like this." Kim Jujin nodded, as expected of a senior, truly admirable. Thus Walter left smoothly. "Next time you have trouble, you must ask me." He also said politely, "I will visit you often, senior." Kim Jujin felt pleased inside. No matter how displeased he is, once he accepts a gift, he cannot call me a monkey in front of me anymore. He attracts others with his passion. Bradley wins people over with his gentleness. Yet Kim Jujin felt like a king at this moment, and he simply used cigarettes to persuade them. He did not expect that at the height of joy there was still a shadow secretly watching, but as long as he had persuaded them, that was enough. That person stood silently in a dark corner. He told himself, "Now I will observe." Next morning everyone started the baseball game again, strike, out. One member grew furious after losing, "Idiots, you have to watch the ball when you swing the bat." While Kim Jujin was thinking, "We need a domed field," the other side did not wait and shouted, "Kim Jujin, stop rambling and come up with an idea." Kim Jujin slowly took off his cap. "In this situation, we do not need an idea." He stepped onto the field, everyone was stunned. Someone stood frozen. That. Kim Jujin bent down to pick up the bat for the game. His eyes were full of confidence. "I am here to end this." At the same time someone shouted, "Kim Jujin spotlight." The opponent became even more vigilant when he saw Jujin. He quickly took his position as well. Everything was swiftly ready. The fastball was thrown with great force. Ball striking produced a sharp sound. Kim Jujin successfully blocked the ball. He followed the ball's path and smirked, "Play your lucky madness." Behind him Cherry kept shouting, "Run faster." In the end the ball still missed, third base home. Everyone immediately rushed over to celebrate. Kim Jujin did it. Suddenly someone approached Kim. That was a real hit this time. Jujin turned to look. Joseph thanked. Unexpectedly Joseph said, "You truly are not like a typical Asian." Kim Jujin was stunned upon hearing it. "What?" Joseph did not think much of it. "Come to think of it, you are not like Anastasio, right? I guess you lean more toward Japan, but not inferior like those others." He spoke suggestively. "You qualify as an honorary white." Then Joseph cheerfully extended his hand. "I hope to cooperate with you from now on." Kim Jujin cursed angrily in his heart. Damn it. How should he deal with this bastard? Joseph showed goodwill. "I truly look forward to working with you." Kim Jujin stared at the hand he extended for a long while. Just then James and his group arrived. Everyone tried to stop James. "Hey, calm down, James," but he could not restrain himself. "No, let me go. What is that bastard doing?" Omar hurriedly grabbed Kim Jujin's shirt. Kim Jujin, he responded. "What?" He reminded softly, "You have to endure it. I know it sounds nonsense to you, but..." Joseph never regarded people of color as human, so calling you an honorary white was extremely generous in his mind. Kim Jujin nodded. I know, Omar kept persuading, so endure it. Your demerit points are extremely dangerous. A nearby teacher noticed. What is this? Why is the atmosphere between you two like this? White quickly explained, it is nothing, please rest assured. On this side Omar pleaded softly, Kim Jujin please. Kim Jujin still felt uncomfortable inside. It felt truly unfair. At first he intended to ignore it, but Duzin recalled the many unpleasant memories he had experienced and understood. You know very well the evolution of racism when someone extends a hand. Seeing him silent, Joseph mocked, why so quiet, too shy, you are not going to accept it. Kim Jujin forced a crooked smile. At this moment he needed the capitalist smile he learned from Hong Tu Lai. He said politely, no, I am just moved. Kim Jujin cheerfully shook Joseph's hand. That is what I should say, from now on let us cooperate well. Everyone sighed in relief seeing the harmony, but Jujin forgot. There was one more thing he had overlooked. Suddenly a voice rang out, what did you just say about black people? Anastasia angrily rushed forward, get ready, bastard. Kim Jujin remembered, besides me, there was another person of color in the class. He lunged and beat Joseph brutally. Everyone rushed over to stop them. Even with a bleeding nose, Joseph remained aggressive. Kill him, kill this black. Hearing that, Anastasia grew even more furious. You deserve to die, you son of a bitch. The crowd was in chaos. Stop them. Someone separate them. I am trying. Kim Jujin felt himself being kicked in the face and thought, the riot at Ma San Field when I was a child was even milder than this. Finally Jason and the others arrived. What do you think you are doing? He sternly ordered, everyone lie down. The consequence was that everyone was punished. That day we nearly died in the chaos. Kim Jujin sighed while bandaging Anastasia. He kept mocking, impressive, so clever. Although Kim Jujin could not hold back from giving Anastasia a harsh lesson. Why lose your temper and cause such a mess? Anastasia angrily retorted, Kim Jujin, did you not hear what that bastard said? Dogs like him must be beaten with a stick. Kim Jujin saw the situation was unstable and advised, calm down. Another person in the room spoke up, even so you should observe the situation. That person was John Henry Ford Daco. If he reacted violently after being called inferior, it would only prove the man's words. Anastasia reconsidered, moreover. Now he was completely disliked by the seniors and the coach. In the end, the one who suffered was him. Anastasia spoke up to defend himself. I'm not cruel enough to casually shake hands in that situation like you, Kim Jujin. Kim Jujin corrected, not that I'm cruel, it's just your temper is too hot. Took something from his pocket, so I have medicine to cool your fiery heart. Drink it. Anastasia doubted, you're giving me medicine. Kim Jujin handed her a bottle and said, here, drink it all. Anastasia examined the liquid suspiciously. Isn't this orange juice? Yet Jujin insisted, I said it's medicine, don't doubt it, drink. So Anastasia obediently drank it all without complaint. Before long half the bottle was gone. Anastasia's face was flushed, his eyes not only happy, but he also thought to himself, indeed medicine really effective. Onlookers watched enviously. Alcohol, give me some, I want it too. Can I drink if I go beat someone? I need medicine too, Dr. Kim. Jujin glanced at them in disdain. Fool. He opened his shirt, revealing more bottles inside. Painful. Just say it. Everyone cheered excitedly. Wonderful. At that moment outside the hallway, a teacher heard the noise. That person slowly approached. During the knock, the group froze for 5 seconds. The person outside called, Kim Jujin Sandwit, I know you're in there, open up. James and the others panicked, hiding the bottles, hurry up. The urging outside grew louder, or I'll break the door. Kim Jujin replied, opening here. As soon as the door opened, they saw Ega with a face as dark as stone. His eyes quickly noticed something unusual. It turned out to be a bottle of liquor spilled on the floor. Everyone tensed up. Ega angrily said, you're too relaxed. He could only listen silently. Fighting wasn't enough. Now drinking in the dorm. He exhaled in anger. Seems I'm not strict enough. Prepare for the animal cage for the next 365 days. Jujin admitted, I'll correct it, sir. Ega grew angrier, holding his mouth. Igen Kim, follow me. Kim Jujin felt a chill, thinking it's over. Before leaving, he turned to his teammates. Seems this is the end of me. Everyone in the room immediately raised their hands in salute. Jujin was moved to tears, raising his hand but silently cursing damn. Thus Jujin left with Ega. In a room, someone focused on reading documents. Outside the door a voice called, sir, I brought him. The other commanded, good, let him in. The person brought in was Jujin. Upon seeing him, that person cheerfully asked, nice to meet you, student Kim Jujin. I'm Howard S. Bennion, West Point Cadet 54, Brigade Commander Howard Bennion. He pointed to the chair in front. Sit, we have much to discuss. Howard got straight to the point. Your smuggling made quite some profit, right? Kim Jujin was surprised. thinking, damn, how did the rumor reach the commander? He honestly admitted fault. Sorry, I accept any punishment. Howard wasn't angry. Punishment, yes. I've thought carefully how to handle you, Junior. Actually, every year there's smuggling, but you're special. I can't figure out how you bring items in. Looking at the results in hand, he was puzzled. Your achievements are strange, average grades, average fitness, but shooting, teamwork, basic soldier skills, all excellent. Howard realized, seems like a weak cadet trying to adjust scores. Kim Jujin admired silently. This guy is sharp. Kim Jujin stayed silent. Howard remained loud. I won't ask your purpose. You can continue smuggling as long as it's not too dangerous. In return, deal with today's incident. Kim Jujin realized, you mean Joseph and Anastasio. Howard understood, clearly it's not just between the two. If harmony isn't reached, this will repeat. Midterms and Christmas break are coming, then freshmen stay, upperclassmen leave. Howard worried if a similar thing happens, cadets can't resolve internally. If you can't handle it, the rest of academy life will be difficult. Directly asked Kim Jujin, I want you to handle it, do you have a plan? Kim Jujin thought hard. Plan in the previous life, what did they do? Suddenly an idea came to him. Kim Jujin quickly gave an answer to Howard, Senior Benya. Freshmen like us make life hell. Many of Howard's impressive shields, Mainani and Anastasio, almost faced court-martial but ultimately escaped. Howard held his sword in a defensive stand. However, a coach shouted, are you fourth years so soft? Looked at the students bowing on the ground. If juniors are weak, how to become officers? An angry fourth year looked down. Damn third years. He mimicked the coach. You're destroyed. Juniors screwed up. Then a third year did the same. Damn second year. Shouted. Students trembled. Just a few months in, military truth remains, top to bottom. As a result, second year males, eyes burned like hell. Fifth year seemed to find anger points. Damned freshmen. Some stepped forward with thug postures. Today you're dead. This made freshmen fear. Stand straight. We intended to be punching bag. Howard interlaced his fingers under his chin, wondering, want me to bully you? He suspiciously looked at the person ahead. I'm just asking, do you like being punished? Jujin replied immediately, no sir. He looked straight at Howard, explaining, to unite everyone, there must be a common enemy. And the most suitable enemy now is the upperclassmen. Howard heard and gave an opinion, but just redirecting hatred, not a thorough solution. Even as Kim Jujin calmly explained, turning upperclassmen into enemies was only a means. I have a more important plan, which made Howard curious, and that is. He smiled slightly, a small smile it is. Back to the tense training ground. A student called to the one lying on the ground, hey, Mark Nanny. Vicent pointed his sword, provoking, low-class black like you must be easy to break. He opened his eyes wide, speaking with all his might, Westbrook's swordsman nickname. Joseph trembled like a rabbit before the opponent's aura. Whitehead shouted, damn. He wanted to vent his frustration. How long will we survive like this? John muttered from the chair, mother, I want to see you. White grew more impassioned as he spoke. We know we were wrong, but do we deserve to be punished to this extent? Kim Jujin sat on the bed, wondering inwardly. I am sorry, I did not think things would become this bad either. He spoke up in time to break the tense atmosphere in the room. There is only one way to resolve this situation. The words immediately drew the attention of his roommates. What is it? Annapolis, the United States Naval Academy. Kim Jujin thought for a moment before saying to them, there is a baseball scrimmage with Annapolis coming up, right? Everyone in the room fell silent for a few seconds before shuddering unconsciously. If we lose this match as well, we are finished. Kim Jujin's eyes turned resolute as he made a firm declaration. If we defeat the Annapolis freshmen, our honor will be restored. White clasped his hands together in excitement, his face full of admiration, right? You mean we just have to smash their heads and it is done? John was equally fired up. I will crush them. Kim Jujin hesitated and asked, wait, are you Viking? James sat up and made it clear that the issue was not just about freshmen competing. If we rely only on strength, how can we defeat Annapolis? He praised his way of thinking, truly different from the two barbarians from Kansas. That is a great question, Bradley. Kim Jujin rested his chin on his hand and analyzed. Baseball is a refined sport, not like football. A voice suddenly rang out but was cut off at once. What did you just say? Be quiet and listen. He presented his plan. Tonight we will seize the ceremonial cannons in the warehouse. He will aim them straight at their dormitory. Kim Jujin could not help but smile at the imagined outcome. When they wake up tomorrow morning, he wondered what those squids would be like. They will probably go mad in chaos. Everyone in the room was astonished by his plan. If we break their composure like that, our chances of victory will increase significantly. After finishing his explanation, he turned back and asked, well, how is my plan? Kim Jujin thoughtfully assessed his friends. Ordinary people would object, but they were not ordinary people. They were 20-year-old youths brimming with passion, restrained by a harshly disciplined environment. Therefore, the likelihood that they would readily accept this proposal was very high. White stepped closer and placed a hand on his shoulder. Kim Jujin. He burst out laughing and praised the plan as brilliant, 58,000%. White spoke again, but that is still not enough. Kim Jujin looked at him blankly, not understanding what he was calculating. What? White said with barely concealed excitement, while the squids are asleep, I will replace their flag. He dashed toward the door at incredible speed. I will inform the others about this plan immediately. Kim Jujin hurriedly stopped him. Wait. Stared in shock, you lunatic. If we go that far, even Senior Howard will not be able to protect us. A moment later, the whole group gathered and shouted their slogan, Kill them, Annapolis. Kim Jujin looked at the scene helplessly. It is too late. The next morning at the training field, steady footsteps entered the field with proud momentum. A spirited baseball team stared straight at their opponent. One of them could not suppress his dissatisfaction. Look at those arrogant fools, heads held high as if they are somebody. The one beside him asked, should I go get a gun? Kim Jujin stepped forward in time to calm them. Everyone stay calm. They are about to experience a humiliation worse than death. He almost shouted with a murderous expression, tonight we execute the plan. Night quickly fell, enveloping every corner. White and the others hid in wait, whispering anxiously, but the seniors are still on guard. Kim Jujin understood the situation clearly and replied, do not worry. When it is time to change shifts, they will step out for a smoke. Immediately, the guards began to change shifts now. The four of them crept forward, go 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 go. The wooden door opened swiftly. A massive cannon drew their attention. Kim Jujin grabbed the rope and announced, we will pull from the front. He arranged the team at the rear, Joseph, Anastasio. You two push from behind, understood. Jujin called out, start moving, all right, pull. Heavy cannon began to move. Joseph jolted in alarm, damn it, why is this thing so loud? Jujin told him, apply the grease I gave you earlier. He took out the small bottle of oil that Kim Jujin had handed him. Joseph reported back, I already did. Why does it smell so salty? Kim Jujin froze, hell, I grabbed the wrong bottle of oil. The group continued moving. It is moving, hurry up, pull while we can. He dragged the cannon to an open area. Kim Jujin looked into the distance. The cannon is ready. What about the flag team? White worried about the worst case. They did not get caught, did they? At that moment he saw a sight. Flag fluttered in the night as the flag team approached in a clear formation. They marched like a powerful army. Kim Jujin stood stunned. I do not understand how they were not caught looking like that. White could not hold back, they really are lunatics. Next morning, as expected, the squids fell into chaos. Every flaw began to surface under the sudden assault. We won safe. The match ended West Point won. Everyone on the field quickly cheered with fervor. One draped an arm over another, celebrating the victory. Bison and Joseph's eyes met by chance. Two hurriedly looked away, embarrassed. Joseph called out, hey. He extended his hand, sorry about before. He said awkwardly, from now on I will be more careful. Vicent looked back and smiled. He asked, is the spot where I hit you okay? Joseph replied cheerfully, it is fine, though it still aches a little. Howard had approached Jujin at some point and said, you know nearly every class steals the ceremonial cannon, right? He replied, yes sir, I thought we could use it to strengthen our unity. He laughed and recounted, in the past someone did the same, someone who moved the cannon to unite his classmates during a serious conflict. Howard spoke sincerely, that person later became an outstanding officer, I believe you will as well. He concluded, I expect you to be as capable as him. Yuji accepted and replied, I will do my best not to disappoint expectations. He suddenly grew curious about that person. I wish to follow in the footsteps of such a great senior. May I ask his name? A name was spoken immediately afterward, Mark Arthur. The senior in Howard's story appeared with unusual majesty, Douglas MacArthur. And Fett smiled at the group before him and asked in a friendly tone, hey, did you steal the flag? Kim Jujin replied with an innocent sparkling expression, no, we did not do it, you are not fooled, are you? How could our model cadets do such a thing? And Fep shook his head in weary amusement, I am exhausted. I will have to report that we conducted a thorough investigation but found no culprit. Roland turned to leave without forgetting to say goodbye. All right then, we will not waste the model cadets' time anymore, we are leaving. The two instructors ran down the corridor cheerfully like children. Kim Jujin watched their backs and suddenly spoke. Next time when we march to Annapolis, they will probably try to swap our flag. James calmly folded his arms and replied, it is fine, you just need to tuck the flag into your underwear and sleep with it. What did the flag ever do wrong? Kim Jujin looked at everyone in the room and suddenly asked, you have not forgotten about stealing the cannon, right? James stared blankly. What? He looked at them with worry in his eyes. It is coming. Those 3 words were enough to leave the students stunned. Midterm. Beautiful morning filled with cheerful laughter, as if it were freedom. Students laughed and joked together happily. I am heading back, going home. White looked at them with a weary expression, truly envious. Kim Jujin stood behind him and gently comforted him. We are about to enter the second year. When that time comes, we will be able to go home as well. He could not help adding a sarcastic remark. Of course, that is if we survive to reach the second year. Are everyone's grades all right? Omar raised his grade sheet with a lifeless face. I barely passed, White replied confidently. Passing is only natural for me. Kim Jujin looked at him and advised, Bradley, you should study more. If this continues, it will be dangerous. He collapsed, holding his hand, and complained, why do we have to study math when we are soldiers? At that moment, Kim Jujin wondered inwardly, how could he later become chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? Immediately after, a loud noise rang out and drew everyone's attention. Not far away came the groans of someone who had collapsed. Impossible, it cannot be like this. James beside him tried to comfort him. Calm down, die. Kim Jujin stepped forward to pick up the exam paper, his eyes filled with shock. Impossible. White quickly came closer as well, doubtful again. It cannot be like this, right? Yu Dian turned back to announce, he failed math and he did too. Facing the tears on John's face, he had to state the consequence, you will be reviewed for expulsion. The sky gradually turned toward evening, with a lonely silhouette beneath it. John walked slowly like a defeated man. Just then, from behind him, several figures appeared. Hey. White was the first to speak. Are you planning to leave alone? John remained silent and unwilling to speak. Unlike you all, I am no longer a cadet. He held his head and sighed, this kid, truly incomprehensible. He turned back and slung an arm around his friend. He said sincerely, whether we are still cadets or not, we are still friends. John's expression changed at once, tears streamed down again, a pained cry rang out, hey hey. Crying again, Ike, is this how a man cries? A notebook and a pen were handed over, write down your home address, we will come visit. White watched his friend and reminded him, remember to send letters, we will read everyone. Kim Jujin also threatened, if there are no letters we will carry sticks to find you, remember to send them. The group watched John until he disappeared from sight, their eyes filled with sadness. In a large room, a strange voice rang out, a cadet was expelled. Howard looked outside and reminded him, Junior, sooner or later you will have to face that. He glanced at Kim Jujin and said leisurely, it is not something you overcome but something you must learn to get used to. He murmured as if committing it to memory, is that so? Howard could not help commenting, you still have a long way to go, Junior. Each of his words made Kim Jujin feel more uneasy. I have begun to sense the harshness from the seniors I once met. Howard felt this was also an opportunity. From a certain perspective, this farewell could be considered fortunate. It is better than dying on the battlefield for lack of training. Do not forget, the road ahead of us is always close to death, especially in war. Jujin straightened his back and pondered quietly. For a long time, we devoted all our strength to studying and training. The images of those who quietly left kept haunting our eyes. Kim Jujin jolted and warned himself, wake up. I did not come here to enjoy the school life I missed in my previous life. He reached out and took a book, though it was still early. Blank pages were opened decisively. The tip of the pen touched the paper, then stopped. He was firm in his decision. Perhaps I should write it down first. A neat line of words suddenly appeared on the paper. A soldier's war will end everything. Time at school passed day by day. Cold winter came again, covering every corner. Winter passed and spring arrived. Flowers began to bloom in abundance. The train was crowded with people coming and going. On the train, Kim Jujin looked outside with mixed emotions. It has been a year, my hometown, San Francisco. He took his belongings and stepped outside, finally granted leave after a long time. At that moment, Kim Jujin widened his eyes in surprise at the sight before him. A large banner was hung with the words, Welcome, brave soldier of Daihan, cadet of the United States Military Academy. People around applauded enthusiastically to welcome him. Kim Jujin had returned. Congratulations on your safe return. Faced with such enthusiasm, Jujin could not help being stunned, damn it. He quickly guessed who was behind it. Only one person could come up with such a stunt. Seung-min greeted him with a bright smile. Kim Jujin, welcome back, Seung-min. Kim Jujin looked at the surrounding crowd and asked, what on earth is this? He patted his shoulder and replied, I am sorry, there are many reasons. Just then, Saizian stepped forward and called Kim Jujin's name emotionally. He hugged Jujin anxiously. Oh my, you have grown thinner again. The words left he frozen on the spot, son. Seung-min behind continued to add fuel to the fire. The brave soldier of Daihan has returned to the embrace of his family. Fireworks exploded loudly, while in Kim Jujin's desperate thoughts, can everyone not leave me in peace? Afterwards, in a luxurious room, Seung-min smiled while apologizing, I am sorry about this. Kim Jujin looked at him and said, now that you have made big profits thanks to me, show me the revenue report. Seung Min was not angry, instead he praised, as expected of Kim Jujin, you truly are good at calculations. He glared angrily at the uncle before him. After a year this is the only vacation I have, Uncle Seung Min. Seung Min calmly set down his teacup and said, I did this for a reason. He quickly explained the cause of the matter. The Japanese want to humiliate you. Kim Jujin was stunned, not understanding why he offered such a strange explanation. They are displeased that a Korean American entered Westport first. Could not help feeling indignant. Did they not also send cadets from their homeland? Seung Min looked at him and answered, that has nothing to do with reason. You understand clearly, do you not? He bluntly reminded him, that is why I organized this event. Seung Min analyzed his speculation, setting aside the matter of humiliation. We do not know what they might do to you. Although Kim Jujin paused to think, in any case it is still beneficial. He felt uneasy about the calm Seung Min before him, but that man would certainly calculate every single coin. Kim Jujin silently lifted the teacup, using his mind, how should I resolve this? Just then an angry voice rang out along with the door being kicked open. Seung Min, you bastard. The man walked in and demanded aggressively, you deceived me, did you not say it was Michael? Seung Min was not surprised by this sudden arrival. You have come. The man angrily rambled, what do you mean have come? Even a steamed bullhead would laugh at you. Seung Min hurriedly explained, I merely made a mistake. Suddenly the man turned to look at Jujin and asked, you are Kim Jujin, right? He replied, yes, that is correct. He stepped forward and introduced himself seriously. Pleased to meet you. I work with that man in nationalist activities within the Korean National Association. The man's face appeared under the light along with the name that had been mentioned. My name is Chang Ho. In a simple yet still elegant how. Chang Ho warmly welcomed the guest. I have heard much about you. He excitedly greeted Kim Jujin. Thanks to you many of our compatriots have gained strength. I am truly grateful. He merely nodded, not knowing what more to say. Yes. Then Chang Ho, eyes shining brightly, made an offer. If there is anything you need help with, just say it. I will support you with all my ability. Although Kim Jujin broke into a cold sweat at his enthusiasm, just hearing that alone makes me deeply grateful. Suddenly an idea flashed in his mind. Wait, that can't be. He's only offering help. I can't sit idly by. Although Kim Jujin wanted to seize this opportunity, war was about to break out. This was the moment to carry out his long-held plan. In an instant, he was present to discuss with the partner. Kim Jujin confidently expressed his intention and sought help. I plan to develop weapons. Can you help me find engineers and a factory? However, Sang Jun disagreed with the plan. No, you should go back. His words surprised Kim Jujin. Of course, I can mobilize money if I need to sell the company, but I will leave it for my son. What a pity. Yuzin advised his brother while eating, brother, weapon business isn't profitable. Yo-in agreed, unwilling to risk. This was not a good idea. But Jujin still refused to give up. Then at least can you help me find a company that produces barbed wire? Sang Jun did not refuse. All right, barbed wire for a farm. I can help with that. Felt satisfied with this result. Good, that's enough. If I produce coiled barbed wire, I can profit by licensing it to armies everywhere. Then Kim Jujin continued casually, as if hoping for more help. Perhaps if you could find a tractor company, that would be great. Sang Jun understood but uncertain. I'll try, but don't expect too much. Kim Jujin felt a pang of regret. Am I preparing too late? Fire of changing the past blazed within Kim Jujin. I should have pretended to be a prodigy since childhood, done world-shaking things. It would have been better. However, he quickly dismissed the thought. No, I can't let anyone think I know the future. Kim Jujin shaped his image for the future. It had to be distinct. The image of a promising young officer with foresight. The only way to survive in this discriminatory society. Peaceful atmosphere in a school. Quiet was shattered by a loud shout. You miserable creatures. Two stood still before Joseph, scolding. Is training a joke? Who allowed you to drop your guns? Do you want to die? Garcia hurriedly replied, no, sir. He didn't stop, continuing to scold. Is this outdoors or indoors? Joseph was wearing a badge indicating his rank. Zuzin watched from afar, looking at Joseph training, his expression quite amusing. Manani nodded and recounted today's work. I've been authorized to handle this group. Pointed at Kim Jujin and said, the savior must be you, Kim Jujin. He was startled, asking confused, what, why me? Vicent smiled, speaking subtly, you're making a very good impression on the senior. Finally, he handed everything over to Kim Jujin and left. Anyway, take it seriously. Joseph continued shouting, you guys, why aren't you up yet? Then he asked both their names. What are your names? Gaxia trembled. Gaxia, sir. Dai quickly replied, Dai sir. Joseph angrily mocked, "You bastards struggling too much. From today you'll be coal and coal department." Kim Jujin observed and thought, this is how he acts. He decided to intervene. If it continues, he'll get shot. Kim Jujin shouted, "Hey Manani." Joseph turned sharply, "What yellow monkey?" Continued, showing he was a dedicated trainer. "I'm training these kids, mind your own business." Jujin noticed Joseph biting his tongue but didn't mind. He surely has to bite his tongue when saying yellow monkey. Kim Jujin didn't stop, continued speaking to Joseph, "You shouldn't bring skin color into this." He was annoyed. "You handle these two. If I expel them, you take responsibility." He watched Joseph's path and thought, he acts quite well. Anyway, well done, Joseph. Kim Jujin turned, looked forward and realized something. Both Gaxia and Dai's eyes sparkled, showing admiration for him. Jujin smiled lightly, looking friendly, like a good person. Immediately, he changed his attitude, shouting, "What are you looking at, you guys? Is training a joke?" Kim Jujin firmly commanded, "Both of you push-ups, don't disappoint me." He also smiled faintly, at least a bit of fun. He sighed, reflecting, "It seems the image I built over the past year has worked well." Suddenly, Kim Jujin's eyes became sharp, but it's still not enough. It's time to truly stand out. He decided to execute his plan. Time to begin. In the classroom, Edwin held a notebook, asking sternly, "A battle will end everything. What do you think, Cadet Kim Jujin?" He stood opposite Kim Jujin. "So you're challenging me?" His question seemed challenging. Kim Jujin remained calm, unshaken. Looking back, Edwin was lecturing the class. Therefore, he continued at length. "Currently, the main view among scholars is that the likelihood of a great war in Europe is very low." Kim Jujin listened while others took notes but wondered, "A theory will be broken in 2 years, yet they diligently record it." Edwin continued on the syllabus. "Of course, some regions may face war, but crises have been resolved through diplomacy and treaty." Kim Jujin wanted to counter. Every time he speaks, he suppresses outbreak risks but calls it diplomacy and treaty. He found an opportunity for himself. "Exactly, this common sense is my chance." Kim Jujin raised his hand, calmly voicing his opinion. "I object." Omar was shocked by his reaction. "What are you doing? Crazy." But Jujin remained calm. "I'm fully aware, Omar, so calm down." Edwin repeated irritably, "You object, right?" He frowned, standing opposite Kim Jujin. "What do you mean, Cadet Kim Jujin?" Calmly gave his reason. "Sir, you said war is nearly impossible. So why is the number of cadets at West Point increasing?" Edwin explained vaguely to avoid the issue. "That's different. I'm talking about a large-scale war between European powers." He gestured broadly. "You'll serve in the Philippine jungles, Panama coasts." Edwin's gaze dominated every word, as if challenging Jujin. "Savage China and many other places too," he said subtly. Edwin quickly returned to the lesson content. "You are tasked to protect the U.S. reputation wherever the stars and stripes fly." Kim Jujin felt annoyed and realized Edwin's intent. He just said Savage China, right? Fine, I'll play along. Finally, Edwin turned and continued lecturing. "So, let's continue." Kim Jujin seriously asked, "But aren't all those diplomacy and treaties happening right on the brink of war?" Edwin turned, asserting his authority. "Enough, your role is not to imagine what hasn't happened." Finally, he assigned the class an essay. "Why can't a great war involving 3 or more powers occur?" Cadets angrily criticized Kim Jujin. "What are you doing? It's your fault." Despite being criticized, Kim Jujin pursued his plan. "Sorry everyone, but I want you to remember today when receiving ranks and convey my prediction." Submitting the essay to Edwin, Kim Jujin felt confident, as it reflected his results. He was proud that everything went according to plan. A war in Europe is inevitable. Edwin held his head, helpless against his stubbornness. "I'll give you another chance." He didn't approve and demanded Kim Jujin redo the essay, rewrite and submit by tonight, or I'll consider it the courage of a cadet with firm belief. However, Kim Jujin did not easily give up. "Shall we make a bet then?" Kim Jujin, expressionless, "Bet. I dare to bet everything that within 5 years there will be war." He smirked and added, "But in 5 years I'll have graduated, nothing left to bet." Kim Jujin decided to shorten the time, then 3 years no. Stood tall, deciding to make a big wager. "If war doesn't occur before I graduate, I will refuse to accept the diploma." Kim Jujin faced Edwin directly. "And you, sir?" He seriously asked, "What will you bet?" Suddenly a cadet stood to oppose Kim Jujin. "Sir, please ignore this fool, we will discipline him." But Edwin immediately shouted, "Shut up." He was so angry he yelled, "A man is betting his future, dare you interfere?" Kim Jujin admired, "So cool." Edwin continued seriously, if war really happens. He said seriously, I will use all my connections to announce West Point has an outstanding genius. If you wish, I can also get you a position in the Foreign Office. However, Kim Jujin refused everything. He only hoped to obtain what he needed. That was enough. I only hope to be promoted in rank. After that, he let out a sigh, acknowledging Jujin. I have to admit your confidence. Then Edwin turned and left, accepting this bet. I will frame the report and hang it by my bed. Kim Jujin did not forget to express his gratitude. Thank you, sir. Last, the class began. Let us continue the lesson. Open your books. Kim Jujin felt satisfied as everything was progressing smoothly. Good, everything is unfolding as planned. He calmly walked back to his seat, his mind constantly pondering. In any case, war will be unavoidable if the butterfly effect from me and West Point cannot prevent it. Kim Jujin sat down, a faint smile lingering on his lips. There is no real need to gain rank either, because my knowledge of the future will no longer be useful. He was filled with confidence and determination to carry everything out flawlessly. In any case, this is a game where I have nothing to lose. Kim Jujin silently sent Edwin a reminder. Never gamble if you are not certain of the outcome, instructor. Suddenly, the scene shifted to a battlefield drenched in gunfire and explosion. Soldiers holding rifles advanced to the front line, continuously firing. Of course, war cannot exist without the sacrifice of soldiers. The brutal clash between the two opposing sides was utterly chaotic. A commanding hand signaled the order to move forward. Hurried footsteps continued under the command to attack. At the fallen soldier position, there were only faint silhouettes of trees. Suddenly, a voice echoed from another space, so that is how it is. Although Kim Jujin faced that person, the tension repeated itself, yes then. At present, he was bound hand and foot, extremely uncomfortable. Can you remove this? Omar asked about Kim Jujin's condition. Dr. James, what do you think? James replied calmly, severe mental disorder, requires treatment. Saying that, he did not hesitate to throw a punch at Kim Jujin, physical therapy. After that, Omar also joined in, pouring all his resentment onto him. We told you to lie still for a while. Why did you provoke the instructor, you lunatic? Why did you do that? Kim Jujin cried out in pain. Stop, stop. After a fierce beating, Omar finally let it go and stopped bringing it up. If he chose to ruin his own life, then so be it. James dusted off his hands and agreed with him. On graduation day we will stuff that bastard into the ceremonial cannon and kneel down to pray together. That seems to be the only way. Even though he had just been beaten, Jujin still had the strength to fight back. Do not worry, idiots. I will make those reporters right until their hands ache. Hearing that, James felt as if he had been stabbed in the arm and asked again, has that bastard still not been beaten enough? Omar also turned back and asked seriously, is that true? White opened the door and walked in, not too surprised as he asked, are you done with the counseling? He held out an invitation card to catch the other two men's attention. We received a letter from Dai. He is hosting a Christmas party and invited us over. James was delighted to hear the news, a party hub. Omar's face lit up with excitement about the party. Of course we have to go, just thinking about tonight makes me drool. There will be plenty of beautiful girls, right, and free alcohol. At that moment, Kim Jujin cut off that foolish dream, you scumbags, that is all you ever think about. James refused to lose and shot back, shut up, you are the craziest one here. In Kim Jujin's mind, thoughts of the party began to form. A party, will it be like in the movies? But the thought only flickered briefly through his mind. He did not care much. After all, no one wanted to socialize with an Asian man. In a luxurious villa, a clear voice rang out, who knows? Dorothy Curtis frankly expressed her personal view. I am not very interested in parties. Leona agreed and gently advised, just treat it as a mission and go. This is a party of the upper class. He had no other choice and could only attend. I suppose I have no other way, I will go. In a bustling district where trains sped along the track, Kim Jujin opened his eyes wide, unable to hide his astonishment at the sight before him. He spoke up to confirm with White, hey, Ike, are we at the right place? He held the paper in his hand in disbelief. Unless Dai wrote the wrong address, this should be it. Before them stood a vast and luxurious mansion. Kim Jujin found it hard to accept this reality. Dai, that lucky brat born to inherit an entire fortune. White agreed and added, if it were me, I would never enter West Point. Living here in comfort would be far better. Omar turned his head as if to leave. I am heading back. I did not know the party would be held in a mansion like this. James also lost his earlier bravado and did not dare to go in. Me too. This is too much pressure. White irritably reminded his two roommates, you heartless fools. At least go in and greet him before leaving. Suddenly, a voice called out to them from afar, everyone. John ran over excitedly to greet Kim Jujin's group. It has been a long time. He was quite surprised by Kim Jujin's new appearance. Do not tell me that round fellow who looks like he is about to burst is you. Seeing the happiness on his face, he turned and frankly remarked that he looked as if he had never suffered a day in his life. Upon arriving, Kim Jujin panted and announced, "Welcome, everyone is waiting for you." He was startled by the information he received. Waiting for us. He awkwardly scratched his head and recounted the story. My father boasted to the guests that you are the ones who will lead the future of America. White's eyes widened, looking drained of all life. This is bad. Kim Jujin also knew there was nothing he could do. There is no escape now. If we sneak off to eat bread in a corner, we probably will not be noticed. As night fell, the number of guests grew even larger. The elegant ladies looked toward Kim Jujin's group. Are those the young men? But they questioned the group's lack of refinement at the party. Why are they doing that? Realizing those gazes, they knew they had been exposed. Damn it, Nguyen Trang has failed. Omar quickly gathered them to discuss a plan. We need to relearn small unit tactics. Suddenly, White stepped forward to join the conversation. There is no other way. His face was full of hesitation, as if testing himself. Since we are already here, let us just enjoy it. White then confidently approached a young lady, Miss. Though still a little shy, he spoke up. May I have this dance with you? Girl happily accepted. Oh my, I would love to. Seeing his friend succeed, Omar sighed in admiration. I am so jealous. Jujin froze when he saw how easily White managed it. Ike truly has a gift for talking to women, pure talent. After saying that, he also wanted to try his luck with the ladies. Then I will give it a shot too. James mustered his courage and joined his friends. I am going in as well. Only Jujin remained standing alone, his heart filled with restless thoughts. You heartless fools, I am not like you. I cannot easily ask someone to dance. Suddenly from behind, someone struck up a conversation with him. You must be Cadet Kim Jujin. I warmly extended his hand to introduce himself. Pleased to meet you. I am the host of this party and also Dai's father. He quickly bowed politely and shook the man's hand. Thank you for inviting me to the party. Hearing that, Dai smiled. No need to be so formal. I should be thanking you for coming. When he saw Kim Jujin standing alone, he asked in passing, why are you standing by yourself? Are you not inviting a young lady to dance? That would be rather impolite. He did not hide it and honestly admitted, in truth, merely asking someone to dance could already put her in a difficult position. Dai did not immediately understand and asked again, I am not sure I follow what you mean. Even so, he explained carefully, if they dance with me, they will become a joke for dancing with an Asian man, but if they refuse me, they will be labeled as racists. Therefore, he did not want to dance with any girl. I would rather be seen as rude for being too demanding than let that happen. Hearing Jujin's words, the kind gentleman praised him, thoughtful just as my son said. Dai continued to explain about this party. However, contrary to your worries, this party holds no such hostility toward people of color. Kim Jujin was surprised and hesitated to ask again, is that so? He smiled kindly and added, of course, in fact before hosting the party I mentioned you a little. Then Dai made an intriguing proposal. As it happens, there are a few people very interested in you. Would you like to meet them? Jujin repeated in confusion, interested in me. Quickly waved his hand and clarified for Jujin, do not misunderstand. They do not want to stare at you like a monkey in a zoo. They simply wish to talk with you. At last he nodded and made his choice. In that case I will meet them. Dai led Kim Jujin to another area, away from where the party was taking place. Before leaving, he did not forget to offer his wishes. Then I will take my leave. Enjoy yourself. Kim Jujin replied warmly, yes, thank you for your concern. He frowned at the house before him, suspicion rising in his heart. Just what important figure would have an entire separate wing like this? Countless thoughts then surfaced in Kim Jujin's mind. Do not tell me it is the Japanese. What if they force me to swear loyalty to the Japanese Empire right here? There was no turning back now, so he stepped forward and knocked on the door. It cannot be that extreme. In any case, there is no retreat now. Immediately, someone inside responded, come in. Jujin heard the voice and guessed to himself, a woman's voice. The door slowly opened, revealing the person inside. Dorothy Curtis appeared graceful and charming. She beautifully inquired about his identity. Are you Mr. Kim Jujin? Kim Jujin stood staring at Dorothy Curtis, as if unable to believe his eyes. A surge of mixed emotions rose within him. A peerless beauty, but how does she know me? Seeing Kim Jujin did not respond, she apologized. I must have startled you by being too forward. I am sorry. He hurriedly waved his hand and gently reassured Dorothy Curtis. It is all right. It is nothing. She smiled and began the conversation. I heard that an Eastern man entered West Point and was invited to the party. Dorothy Curtis kindly introduced herself. Pleased to meet you, I am Dorothy Curtis. Jujin immediately responded to her. It is an honor, Miss Dorothy Curtis, I am Kim Jujin. Dorothy Curtis turned and invited him inside to talk further instead of standing here talking. Let us go inside. My father is very curious about you. Kim Jujin agreed and followed her. Yes, miss. Dorothy calmly called out, yet he grew tense. Father, Mr. Kim Jujin is here. Charles Curtis was very interested upon hearing that he had arrived. He slowly rose to his feet and expressed his hospitality to Kim Jujin. I have heard much about you from Dr. Dai and wished to meet you, so I am very glad you came. Charles Curtis stood upright, smiling brightly as he greeted and introduced himself. A pleasure. I am the United States Senator from Kansas, Charles Curtis. He gently created a comfortable atmosphere to speak with Kim Jujin, as you can see. Charles Curtis did not hesitate to speak about his origins. I am of mixed heritage. My mother has Native American and French blood. Hearing that, Jujin immediately offered praise. Thanks to people like Senator Curtis, I have enjoyed many benefits. He was surprised and pointed out the difference in Kim Jujin's words. Enjoyed benefits. I am mixed blood and you do not have a single drop of white blood. Is that not so? Charles Curtis cheerfully shifted the topic to continue the conversation. I heard there is a young man walking a more arduous path than mine, and I wanted to see you with my own eye. He curiously asked about Kim Jujin's future plans. After graduating from West Point, what do you intend to do? He lowered his head awkwardly and replied, in truth, I may not be able to graduate. Charles Curtis immediately frowned, his gaze turning more serious. He clenched his hand and angrily speculated, could it be that you will be denied a commission because of your skin color, those fools at the War Department? Kim Jujin quickly waved his hands to explain, no, it is not that truly. Frankly admitted, I wagered my diploma. Charles Curtis was stunned, unable to believe what he had just heard. What? Night descended, making the party even more splendid. Charles Curtis forced a smile, trying to salvage the conversation. So if war does not break out before you graduate, your diploma will vanish without anyone knowing, is that correct? Kim Jujin nodded in confirmation. That is correct. Immediately Charles Curtis voiced his opinion. Absurd. We cannot abandon a talent trained for 4 years with taxpayers' money over a mere wager. He sincerely made a very attractive proposal. If you encounter any problems with graduation, just write to me. I will handle everything. Kim Jujin immediately expressed his heartfelt gratitude. That alone already makes me deeply thankful. However, he was very confident in his own ability to overcome difficulties. But it does not matter. I firmly believe that war will break out. Darkly noticed that there was no longer any resistance from Jujin. If that is your belief, I will not make things difficult for you anymore. After that, he looked at his watch and realized there was no more time to continue the conversation. Has it been that long already? I need to return to the party. Charles Curtis asked about his schedule and said, do you want to go somewhere or head back first? Kim Jujin replied, yes, I will see you at the banquet hall. Before turning away, he still tried to glance back. Kim Jujin accidentally met Dorothy Curtis's gaze. Both of them awkwardly turned away at the same time. Only after he left did he finally feel calm again. In his mind, Jujin felt a trace of anxiety about what he had said, unsure whether getting too deeply involved with a politician was the right move. He recalled the conflict between the two factions. Moreover, from now on it might be the era of the Democratic Party, while Curtis belongs to the Republican Party. Filled with worry, Kim Jujin kept thinking, I must consider this matter carefully. In the previous room, Charles Curtis took out a box of cigars. He turned to ask his children, what do you think? Henry Ford witnessed everything and sighed. He is very bold and still young, the second son of Henry Ford Curtis. The eldest daughter, Leona Curtis, only found Kim Jujin strange. Is he insane? If everything fails, then would 4 years of study not be wasted? However, Sarkley appreciated that precisely because of that he can survive in white society. Henry Ford raised his hand in surrender and laughed. I do not think I could do the same. Dorothy Curtis said nothing, but continued to gaze at the place where Kim Jujin had just left. She turned and called Charles Curtis father. He immediately turned back and asked with concern, what is it, my daughter? Dorothy Curtis did not hesitate to ask for help. Father, I have a request. Can you help me? Sarkley hesitated, not understanding what she wanted. What is it? She smiled brightly, full of confidence. I saw Jujin return and called him over warmly. Kim Jujin. He gently asked, it seems you talked for quite a while. Are you all right? Jujin straightened up and politely replied, yes, thanks to today I had an interesting conversation. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Then Dai smiled, patted his shoulder and said, may I give you another opportunity? A new guest wishes to meet you, he repeated in surprise. He did not give up easily, pulling Kim Jujin along. Follow me. In his heart he silently prayed, I hope it is someone from the Democratic Party, please. When they arrived, Dai showed admiration and said, it is beautiful to see young people gathered like this. He had Kim Jujin sit at the table with a mysterious girl. Hello, I have heard a lot about you. The girl carried herself with elegance and introduced herself. My name is Rosamund Song. I added beside them, Miss Song is studying at Wesleyan Women's College. Hearing this name, Kim Jujin felt it was somewhat familiar. Song, who is that? Why does it sound so familiar? He continued introducing Rosamund's family background. Her father is very progressive. He sent all 3 of his daughters to Wesleyan. Immediately Kim Jujin realized his suspicion. Could it be? He asked Rosamund directly, is your father Charles Curtis? She looked surprised. You know my father. Rosamund nodded in confirmation. That is right, I am the second daughter. Jujin was no longer confused. He understood who she was. With his broad knowledge and firm grasp of information about everyone, Charles Curtis Song is a major businessman and also a supporter of Sun Zhongshan. Kim Jujin was filled with doubt, more questions emerging. Why would the daughter of such a powerful figure take interest in him? Dai decided to leave, giving the 2 space to talk. I will leave you young people to converse. I have matters to attend to. After he left, Rosamund and Kim Jujin both did not take the initiative to speak. He raised his wine glass to ease the tension. The atmosphere was truly stifling. That moment Rosamund spoke in praise. You seem to be a man of few words. Jujin appeared tense and spoke awkwardly. It is not that. I simply do not know how to begin when meeting another person from the East who is also as beautiful as you. She did not waste words and went straight to the point. Actually, I also received a letter. That is why I came tonight. Kim Jujin looked at the letter and immediately recognized the writer as teacher Seung Min. Seeing the lines on the paper left him extremely surprised. Sent to Mr. Charles Curtis. Rosamund glanced around cautiously and said, perhaps it is not convenient for others to hear, let us change places. However, Jujin suggested, let us just speak here. Rosamund unexpectedly praised his adaptability. Your Chinese is very good. Kim Jujin did not grow arrogant and humbly replied, a Korean born in San Francisco should know at least 4 foreign languages. And she went straight to the matter, let me be direct. What Rosamund said made him think seriously. My father wants to support the arms business you are planning. Kim Jujin calmly replied, I have not mentioned any business model or product I intend to create. Rosamund did not show much emotion and continued, my father believes you will lead the Korean nation one day. He immediately refuted, impossible, I am only a cadet. She responded sharply, as a cadet of West Point your position is not small at all. Do not say such excessive things. He remained silent, allowing Rosamund to continue and summarize her intention. This time Rosamund made an offer. We will provide Chinese weapons engineers, a factory in San Francisco and cover all expenses until the prototype is completed. Kim Jujin was very surprised that she still wished to cooperate. If you can provide all of that, why not run the business yourselves? Rosamund calmly raised her wine glass and admitted directly, our goal is not merely business. Her words left Jujin bewildered. Investing in a man who will become the future leader of Korea, a very difficult offer to refuse. In the end, he did not refuse immediately but asked for more time. May I think it over? Rosamund did not press him. She simply said, I will give you our address once you decide, write to us. After that she left, giving Jujin space. Felt the tension from facing Rosamund, his back soaked with sweat. Kim Jujin began calculating the benefits of this deal. If he succeeds in the arms industry and produces the Chicago typewriter, he can strengthen his position within the American military. However, he also clearly recognized the great risks. In return, he would be tied to Jack Lee as if sharing the same fate. Yet from the beginning, he never wanted to become the leader of the Korean nation. He was thinking, Dai approached and interrupted. The conversation between you 2 young people sounded like old men in Washington talking. Seeing his reaction, Dai immediately apologized. Did I startle you? Kim Jujin placed his hand over his heart and replied blankly, Senator, we meet again. He quickly spoke, I came because I have a request. He asked in surprise, what request? Dai pointed at Dorothy Curtis and said, could you keep Dorothy Curtis company for a while? She is quite reserved and not used to gatherings like this. Kim Jujin immediately agreed. He extended his hand toward Dorothy Curtis. Of course, Miss Dorothy Curtis, I will escort you. She did not hesitate to take Jujin's hand. I am looking forward to it, of course, I truly am. Kim Jujin did not think too much about this relationship. It is still too early to decide whether to build a deep connection with Senator Curtis. Only thought simply, just dance a little and socialize. She will surely find another gentleman. Kim Jujin still wanted to be certain. Are you truly comfortable dancing with a man from the East? Dorothy Curtis laughed cheerfully in affirmation. Oh my, of course, certainly. Kim Jujin was bewildered. Where am I? His face was still marked with lipstick. It felt as though he had dug his own grave, recalling what happened yesterday. Kim Jujin remembered the girl's sharp gaze. Finally realized it was Dorothy Curtis. Kim Jujin felt somewhat relieved. Did I drink too much? His head was spinning. I hope I did not do anything foolish. Judging by her expression, it seems fine. Dorothy Curtis asked directly, so what exactly is your relationship with the girl earlier? Kim Jujin was surprised. What? He explained clearly, Miss Rosamond's song. I only met her for the first time today. I simply wanted to expand connections for an upcoming project. It was merely a coincidence. Dorothy Curtis grew even more curious. So what is that project? Both of them were holding a glass of red wine. Kim Jujin always thinks carefully before acting. Telling her should be fine. Earlier in the annex I said I predict there will be war, correct? So she concluded after listening. In short, you want to amass a fortune and build your name and reputation within the Korean community, correct? He was excited when she grasped his meaning. Indeed, Dorothy Curtis understood at a single glance. I am not familiar with Asian, but clearly he was receiving one-sided attention from a Chinese person. He seemed slightly doubtful whether Koreans and Chinese truly had such a good relationship. Even though Kim Jujin sincerely recounted his burdens, most others would probably scoff and ask whether he had sold his soul to make money from them. Dorothy Curtis remained calm. Then there was nothing to worry about, right? He had just realized the truth. Dorothy Curtis was right. He had let the large investment overshadow the most important factor. Even though Kim Jujin found the reason behind the matter, Seung-min certainly had intentions. That man wanted to use this incident to attack him the moment he was about to lead the Korean community. She suddenly brought up something familiar. Normally people would call a woman frivolous if she spoke like that at a party. Did he feel uncomfortable? He immediately responded, in this day and age people still talk such nonsense. Even though Kim Jujin treated it as something ordinary, he was simply grateful for her advice. Thanks to her he became much more clear-headed. Dorothy Curtis uttered a meaningful remark. Oh my, he should not sober up so quickly. Her voice was sweet. She wanted to talk a little longer. Kim Jujin, what did he think? He was so happy that his eyes curved into a smile. As for him, it truly felt like winning the lottery. Who would refuse to chat with a beautiful lady like her? Dorothy Curtis. Dorothy Curtis wanted to change locations. Great. Then let us return to the annex. Standing too long makes the legs tired. Jujin happily agreed. Yes. She must have wanted to say something but hesitated. Dorothy Curtis only wanted to confirm about Rosamund's father, Mr. Charles Curtis. Had he not said that man was connected to Tun Trung's son, he had not hidden anything, right? She had heard a lot and remembered. My father sometimes mentioned him. After Dorothy Curtis finished speaking, Kim Jujin choked on water, though he was usually called an irritating red name. She panicked and supported Kim Jujin's hand. Oh my, was he all right? He quickly regained himself. Yes, he was fine. He had only choked. Even as Kim Jujin analyzed in his mind, it sounded unreasonable. But if a major figure in DC said it, it became truth. If he wanted to become famous in the military, absolutely could not, under any circumstance, get entangled with those Reds. He turned to look at Dorothy Curtis wearily. Without her, he would probably have truly rushed in. Kim Jujin took a pack of cigarettes from his pocket. Thinking about nearly falling into hell, he craved nicotine intensely. He politely asked for permission if she did not mind. Could he smoke one? Dorothy Curtis was relaxed. Her father smoked strong cigars beside her every day, so it was fine. Kim Jujin still hesitated. Was that so? The atmosphere between him and Dorothy Curtis grew calm. Nothing escaped Kim Jujin's eyes. That gaze also wanted to try smoking. He kindly offered Dorothy Curtis a cigarette, but she refused, quite surprising. Dorothy Curtis hurriedly said, was it possible? Kim Jujin yielded. If she wanted, he would give her the last cigarette. Dorothy Curtis worried. No, she meant, did he mind women smoking? He did not know what to say. Indeed, this was the modern era. Kim Jujin extended the cigarette toward her. Dorothy Curtis eagerly accepted, thanking him. He immediately guessed, seeing the way she held the cigarette, she probably did not smoke often. Kim Jujin carefully snapped his last match as he struck the flame. He was flustered. Damn it, that was the last match. Yet she was not angry, remaining calm. Dorothy Curtis came up with a way to keep the flame. Even though Kim Jujin felt slightly awkward, his cigarette was already lit. To share the ember with her, Dorothy Curtis wanted him to move a little closer. He blushed in embarrassment, Miss Dorothy Curtis. The tip was hotter than she thought. She needed to be careful. She touched Kim Jujin's waist. Dorothy Curtis even teased she should hold firmly so she would not tremble. Right. She praised Kim Jujin's muscle. His waist was firm. He must train often. Dorothy Curtis was surprised that he had no improper intention. Was he not going to hold her? Kim Jujin, if she got burned, would he take responsibility? He trembled as he said he would take responsibility. No, he would hold her. Kim Jujin wrapped his arm around her waist. Then, he asked for permission. The two cigarette tips were about to touch. Dorothy Curtis's lips curved beautifully. He tried to stay calm. It was only. Kim Jujin looked as if he were kissing her. He could hardly endure it. He returned to reality. It was only pleasure. Jujin revealed extreme shock. This was a double-barreled shotgun. He held the empty pack. He was doomed. What should he do? Smoking the last cigarette before dying was not bad, but there were no matches left. Kim Jujin quickly looked for a friend. Hey, give him some fire. He did not understand why they laughed at him. What was wrong with those lunatics? Someone asked why he had not returned last night. Kim Jujin casually made up a reason. Yesterday he woke up lying in the garden. He must have drunk too much. White looked at him suspiciously. Was that so? His friends laughed together, so the garden grass was red all over his face. Rich people's grass was truly different. Even though Kim Jujin was angry, he did not retort. He had wiped it clean this morning. He was excited that they had not managed to tease Jujin. He had only set the bait and they had already taken it. He won. Hand over the cigarette. Jujin glared fiercely. Damn it. White refused to let him go. Hey Kim Jujin, share the battlefield report. He said he had to leave. Get lost, you fools. He was curious. Where were they going? They were heading to Ike. Jujin walked ahead leisurely, about to be shot. Three brothers were all stunned. He received the information with joy. That man had left. Dorothy Curtis explained why she was not at the hotel. Yes, her father was busy and had left since yesterday. Her siblings were also busy. She stayed alone. Only after Kim Jujin asked did he understand. She half joked and half meant it. Would he really leave her alone? Dorothy Curtis spoke with hidden meaning. Suddenly he felt sore all over. He did not understand why mentioning that frightened him. He would escort her. Even though Kim Jujin did not think much, yes, stepping out and dying pale. If the beautiful and wealthy young lady liked him and he revealed his political views, that would be madness. Let us go, Dorothy Curtis. He led her to a luxurious restaurant. Kim Jujin and Dorothy Curtis chatted happily while strolling. She naturally hooked her arm through Jujin's like a loving couple. He let Dorothy Curtis rest her head on his shoulder after the date. The train appeared, a backlit scene. He asked Jujin's opinion about West Point. Jujin gently reminded her not to force herself. Turning and draping an arm over his shoulder, they would stay close to him. He assured Dorothy Curtis that if he looked at another woman he would handle it Kansas style. Omar laughed. She joined in, relying on them. Kim Jujin waved goodbye before departing. Take care, Dorothy Curtis. He would write letters. He already had a plan. Once back at West Point, the first thing was to send a letter refusing Rasamet. Though he felt more at ease, not long after he received news that his younger brother had registered a patent for barbed wire and begun trial production, he felt relieved. Time passed quickly. About 10 months later. He took a blank sheet of paper, preparing to write something. Kim Jujin sat alone, diligently writing on the paper. White brought friends in to tease. Hey Kim Jujin, writing love letters to sister-in-law again. He also felt envious. Dating was exhausting, having to rack his brain to write letters every day. Jujin was not bad, now it only took 30 minutes. White was curious about what he was writing. Let them see the expert report, he replied seriously. This was not for kids. He snatched the notebook from the table, his hand faster than the eye. Kim Jujin hurried after him to stop him. Bastard. He ran out into the corridor and announced that he, Ik, would read aloud Cadet Kim Jujin's love letter. He read continuously, memorizing titles, predicting outcomes, and preparing for future war scenarios. White finally noticed the anomaly. He was shocked and blurted out to Kim Jujin, "What is this? Isn't it a love letter?" White was puzzled by his intention. What strange thing did he write this time? Everyone focused on reading what Jujin had written in the notebook. White was stunned even after finishing, worried the mobilization speed might lag behind the enemy, setting the stage for a major European conflict. The information was confirmed by Jujin. Germany violated Belgium's neutrality to launch a short decisive battle, expanding the battlefield. Felt confused, this would pose a serious threat to imperial security. What enemy is this? Did you put things in my meal? He added another stack of papers. Once read this far, continue with the next few pages. Although Kim Jujin understood everyone's mood, there was certainly still deception. Knew well, any West Point cadet would find everything written here reasonable. Omar found no logical flaws, everything was entirely accurate. White was concerned if war unfolded as written, Europe would be like a ghost town, men would be lost. He disputed Jujin's view. How do you usually think, Jujin? Don't want to be misunderstood. Don't look at me like a bloodthirsty monster. White loudly threatened, you're not planning to submit this to the superiors, are you? If you do I will break your legs, he explained gently, calmly. That's why I showed it in advance. He grew more annoyed, so you won't submit it. Jujin always knew the situation. No, I prepared a lighter version. Wanted them to know more information soon. Read it. Don't make such a grim face. Only White read carefully, a novel, gossip. The final content is still the same. Kim Jujin liked writing randomly. No, this is just a gloomy novel. He evaluated after reading. This was even better, hard to sell though. Jujin planned in his head, write, then use both. White panicked at his decision change. What he wanted maximum benefit. I will submit this report to the command, likely edited and filed away. The novel will be sold to the public. Didn't let Kim Jujin go. James, stop him, James. He was tied tightly. I won't do it, no way. Omar approached and asked Joseph, you plan to report to the superiors to enhance your value, right? Jujin confessed, yes, but won't spare me. He presented his idea instead of top down, how about bottom up? He said nothing while pressed down. Rumor spread, turns out these rubbish ideas were in Joseph's head, yet strangely, they made sense. Everyone had different thoughts, shocked. This was indeed a disaster report. A tractor fitted with machine guns on a cannon, what was needed. They spread worry themselves, if leading a squad to breach a trench, what would you do? I said there would be no war. Howard unexpectedly visited the school. What are you reading? Startling the junior's senior. He received the stack of papers from the junior. Howard looked bewildered. The great West Point madman appeared. Those beside him guessed if half of this is correct. He's not mad but Cassandra. This matter reached Principal Clarence Bate Housley. Although Kim Jujin was summoned immediately. Clarence pardoned him temporarily as he didn't intend to distribute. I'll let it go with a warning. He bowed deeply, offering endless gratitude. He couldn't tolerate more. Go outside. Jujin complied, yes sir. Breathed heavily outside the door. Fortunately managed to file the report in the principal's drawer without trouble. Though Kim Jujin was more confident, all preparations at West Point were complete. He no longer worried, just awaiting the Sarajevo gunfire. Sunlight shone on the magnificent building. A specific time, June 28, 1914, Sarajevo, Bosnia-Herzegovina territory. Frank sat in the luxury car. Reminded, hey, not that road, take the shortcut. The young man was confused. I didn't hear clearly. The commander urged, turn quickly. The two in the car were high-ranking, Archduke of Austria Frank Ferdinand, Duchess Sophie Chotek-Vonchitkova. Sophie's hand trembled continuously. He gently held her hand to comfort. Don't worry, Sophie. Frank didn't want her to worry. It will be fine now. Sophie nodded but remained unhappy. Many citizens watched the royal convoy. Someone froze in place. A man in a hat rushed forward pointing a gun. Blonde young man rushed into the room. Where's Kim Jujin? Kim Jujin didn't understand. What's happening? He was scared. Stop sleeping, look at this. He held the newspaper showing hot news. Heir assassinated. It started. The blonde young man criticized. How are you so calm? War is about to break out, right? Though Kim Jujin thought everything was under control, calmly, still unaware what happened, wait. 1 month later, July 23, Howard leisurely read the paper. Heard that the Austrian army, instead of declaring war, had sent an ultimatum to Serbia. Edwin believed his view. See, war doesn't easily happen. He also had fans. What will the poor golden monkey do? Spoke boldly, probably refused the task. Smiled smugly at the scheme. As an instructor, am I cruel? I only teach that every action has consequences. Time flew. August 1, 1914. The instructor brought news to colleagues. Look. Newspaper reported much new information. The bespectacled young man shouted, France and Germany. Friend Nam was shocked too, oh my. While everyone panicked, he calmly ate bread. War, great war, pause, exactly like the disaster report. Kim Jujin extremely calm. I told you war will happen. He was scolded, you're madman, truly insane. Everyone wanted to know my future when I marry. Be quiet, me first. What was I assigned? Do Kim Jujin beak? Those madmen think I'm a fortune teller. You won't marry. And you, second class, will succeed in military frauds. Everyone cheered like a festival. War. Kim Jujin guessed right. He doubted everyone's reaction. No, even if a great war broke out, the atmosphere should be gloomier. Jason went to find Jujin after the news. Cadet Kim. He knew he caused trouble. Yes, instructor. Must reassure the kid. Curious if Jujin knew the future, Jujin sighed. They're still the same. He shared frankly. I deduced the answer logically, without prejudice. Everyone lifted Jujin up cheering. Kim Jujin guessed correctly. Richard Liu West Point knew all. He spread the news. Jeremiah West Point predicting war made him uneasy. The madman let go of me. The group paraded Kim Jujin showing off. False prophets bow quickly, war. The prophet Kim Jujin passed by. He pointed directly at the teacher. Someone didn't believe. Edwin, furious seeing students bouncing. What are you doing? He ran to greet instructor. White confidently answered the teacher. Kim Jujin is correct. European powers are drawn into the war vortex. He had to accept yes, intending to reclaim the promise. Of course, sir, will keep it, instructor. Edwin reluctantly agreed. Yes, I will do my best. He left annoyed. All right, I'll help. Disperse when you want to roll outside. Review complete. Parents spoke up to criticize Edwin's conduct, telling him not to let himself fall into such a miserable state. Had he not once threatened to tear up Cadet Kim's diploma? He did not know what to say to defend his action. Kim Jujin smiled faintly with pride and truth. That instructor had fulfilled his duty well. He felt that he had been lucky. After all, a prophet would shine even brighter when ignored and made to endure, and persecution would only make him stand out more. Kim Jujin was fully aware of his fame right here. The people of West Point would never forget him, and the chants from the crowd echoed, Kim Jujin, Kim Jujin, Kim Jujin. Clarence frowned, his gaze sharp and evaluated. Kim Jujin faced him with a tense expression, not daring to look him straight in the eye. Clarence's stern voice carried reproach. Perhaps you are very proud of having predicted the outcome correctly, Cadet Kim Jujin. His explanation caught the man's attention. War has broken out. I cannot rejoice over that. Clarence asked whether he still believed that many would die. Kim Jujin fell silent, unsure how to answer. He picked up the document and said frankly that he had not even read this report. Clarence slammed the document onto the desk and said it had only stirred chaos at West Point. He would handle it in his own way. One war would settle everything. His anger flared. He nearly shouted that predicting the Battle of Annapolis or the end of a war was not the important issue. Clarence pointed out his faults and reminded him that a West Point cadet must uphold dignity and order. Yet this report and the events that followed had clearly gone beyond the limits of an ordinary cadet. He told him to think about what he and his comrades had done. Kim Jujin pressed his lips together and did not dare argue. The cadets had skipped duty, joined in collective unrest, and insulted their superiors. Clarence stared at Kim Jujin without blinking, asking if he understood that sparing the leader was an act of mercy. After finishing his lecture, he let him off and told him he could leave. The next time they met it might be at a military court. Kim Jujin let out a long breath as soon as he stepped out the door. He silently thought about Clarence, the principal. Kim Jujin smiled meaningfully, grateful that he was such a fossil. He continued walking, thinking that from the very beginning, he had truly hoped the report would be delayed for another year. Images of the instructors flashed through Kim Jujin's mind. If the principal had been like those instructors. Kim Jujin imagined Clarence being astonished and delighted, saying that he had never expected such a promising young man. He would write a report to his superiors, requesting that the War Department make contact immediately. Then they would come and take Kim Jujin away. From now on you belong to us. They would confine him in a sealed room filled with documents, and would not let him go until they had squeezed out a true prophecy. Kim Jujin would be like a pot of boiling water on the stove, and when they believed they had drained every scrap of information, they would throw him into the cauldron and boil him alive. He clenched his fists, blaming himself inwardly. In his previous life he had gone through this. If he allowed it to repeat, he would truly be a fool. Kim Jujin resolved not to let himself make the same mistake. Therefore, he had revealed nothing about this report to Senator Curtis. He gripped the envelope tightly in his hand and guessed that she must have much to say. He hugged the letter as if embracing a treasure, but first he had to reply to Dorothy Curtis. The letter contained important requests and instructions. The more he read, the more Kim Jujin sensed complicated issues. Washington seemed calmer than usual. The letter mentioned the natives. In truth, the enemy of the American army was the bandits in Mexico engaged in civil war, not the German Empire. He recalled the most powerful weapon available at the time. The man had said he could request anything. Perhaps he should explain the commercial value of barbed wire. Kim Jujin thought to himself that if this became big, he could use patent technology as collateral, borrow a large sum, and expand his business. Abandoning the firearms industry would be a waste. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze distant. Even though he could see the future, in reality there was little he could do. Kim Jujin imagined that if this were a game, perhaps he would have leveled up and unlocked some bonus skill. He decided to follow his impulse and called out loudly, "Status panel." After a few seconds of silence, nothing in the room changed. It was truly disappointing. The scene shifted to a factory in the city. Industrial printing machines were operating at full capacity. The man chuckled softly, a satisfied smile on his lip. In his hands was an important book. Leonard could not contain his joy and laughed even louder. Employees glanced at one another and whispered. The boss was grinning broadly, which was understandable. Leonard's eyes gleamed as he held the book. I do not know who White Van Bradley is, but this is truly a gold mine. When he had previously received the offer of cooperation, he had shown disdain. When an Asian man submitted the manuscript, he had not believed it could make money. Yet later, events unfolded just like in the book. Who could have thought the war would truly break out as described in the novel? Leonard could not suppress his curiosity and asked whether the author intended to write a sequel. Victor could only reply that they were meeting that Asian man, but due to the author's circumstances, he could not deliver the manuscript immediately. Hearing that, he spun around and scolded. That man thinks this is some cheap trick. He must write like mad and release new volumes continuously to ride this storm. Leonard could not restrain himself and went on at length, saying that writers were lazy now, only writing when pressed by deadlines, and that man even hired an agent to avoid disturbance. Suddenly, rapid knocking sounded at the door. A voice outside called out that it was the police and ordered the door opened immediately. Leonard and Victor froze, not knowing what was happening. 3 tall police officers stepped into the workshop. One officer walked forward and pointed at the stack of books in front of them. He picked one up and examined it, saying this was likely the case. Leonard asked in alarm what they were doing. The officer replied calmly that they were looking for the author of this book and asked for cooperation. He could not hold back and cursed in return, saying to bring out a search warrant before talking, and the officer indeed produced a warrant as proof. Leonard's eyes shrank, his voice filled with panic as he asked how they had obtained that. The officer put away the warrant and said that if he wanted details, he should ask Washington, D.C. Leonard shouted that those damned federal agents, what was this all about? It was June 1915. A knock sounded along with a voice saying, "Excuse me." At once, Kim Joo-jin stepped in and opened the door. He stood before Peter and said that he had heard the man wished to see him. Peter rose and replied that it was a pleasure to meet him, Cadet Kim Joo-jin. Peter did not forget to hand Kim Joo-jin a card to confirm his identity. Kim Joo-jin raised his brow slightly, appearing surprised. Perhaps it was the content on the card that caught him off guard. Kim Joo-jin asked Peter why an automobile company wanted to see him. Peter took out the book and shared what he knew, saying that he had learned Kim Joo-jin was the author of this book. Kim Joo-jin was startled and wondered why that man had brought it to him. The matter seemed suspicious. Perhaps he should refuse. Peter calmly presented evidence, saying they had verified his connections and that he had borrowed the names of friends. They had also confirmed that he wrote the manuscript here and had his younger sibling publish it. Kim Joo-jin was cornered and did not know what to say. Seeing Kim Joo-jin silent, Peter continued, saying they had heard he made many predictions at the academy and that most had come true. No longer wishing to conceal it, Kim Joo-jin spoke frankly. It seemed they already knew everything, so they should speak plainly. Peter smiled broadly and said that he was about to graduate. That man pushed a sheet of paper in front of Kim Joo-jin and said that he was not suited for the army. Peter gave his reasons and wanted Kim Joo-jin to join the business world, saying that if he could foresee the future, he belonged to this world. The more he listened, the more suspicious Kim Joo-jin became, telling him to come to their company where they would offer compensation beyond imagination. Kim Joo-jin's eyes brightened as he wondered whether he should not become a soldier. The man set down his cigar and asked how it was. Peter shook his head. Perhaps the answer was not what he had hoped for. He flatly refused us. He spoke with hesitation. "Sir, I may have overstepped, but I truly do not understand." Peter wondered whether it was necessary to spend money on an Asian who was merely a cadet. The man did not reply at once. He only said, "Think broader." Judging by his expression, he clearly did not understand, sir. The man compared money and people. On this land of freedom, a person can be bought with money. He went on about the plan he had prepared in advance. So at the very least I had to meet him once. If he can be bought, I must act before others discover him. Peter calmly replied, "So now we know he cannot be bought. Is that not the end of it?" The man coldly declared that view was wrong. He pointed out one by one the clues Kim Joo-jin had left behind. If he were truly uninterested, he would not have listened to our conditions. Refusing to sell and demanding something other than money are two entirely different matters. Peter gradually grasped something new, so that cadet wants something else. The man replied, "Exactly. We merely placed a thin sheet of paper before someone who needs something more precious than money, and he naturally refused." The man did not forget to remind him, "Remember that most things money cannot buy are the ones truly valuable." After hearing that, Peter understood more. "I will remember." The man glanced through the documents and asked, "When is the West Point graduation ceremony?" "June 12. He pushed the documents toward Peter and assigned a task, "Arrange my schedule for that day." Henry Ford smiled and revealed his intention, I want to meet him. Henry Ford, chairman of the automobile company. June 12, 1915 at West Point, Kim Jujin Junjun held the paper in his hand. I did it. He was so overjoyed that passers-by took notice. I made it into the infantry. Though Kim Jujin was so delighted that tears fell, passers-by misunderstood. I know how much hardship I endured to achieve this result. Someone called out loudly to him, "Hey, Kim Jujin, hurry up. We need to take a photo." Kim Jujin stepped into formation and glanced at the person opposite. Graduating without a photo is impossible, but taking one with this crowd requires no second thought. Look at those future stars. His eyes shone with satisfaction. As long as I have today photo, my descendants will never starve. Get ready, 1, 2. After the photo, Kim Jujin did not hesitate to introduce. This is my friend. Hello mom, hello sir. Sang Jun shook White hand in thanks. Thank you for being friends with our son. He is not easy to handle. You must have had a hard time. It truly was hard. Stop pretending you are ordinary kids. His gaze shifted forward as if spotting someone. Jujin, over there. It turned out Dorothy Curtis had come to see Kim Jujin. White and Omar understood and stepped aside. We will let you two talk in private. White politely greeted, "Hello dear." Kim Jujin awkwardly replied, Dorothy Curtis, thank you for coming. The two looked at each other and said, "Thank you for taking the time to come here, Senator Curtis. I know you are very busy." Though very busy, Charles Curtis still came to see him. Today is your graduation ceremony. Of course I must be present. He walked closer to Sang Jun and introduced himself. Hello, I am Dorothy Curtis' father. Yes, it is an honor to meet you. Those words struck him like a bolt of lightning. Sang Jun's whole body trembled, his eyes filled with confusion. He curiously asked, "You did not tell your father?" Kim Jujin had to offer an excuse. Today a fly was buzzing around my father. I thought it would only irritate him more, so I said nothing. Suddenly his gaze shifted and his tone lowered, but it seems the fly followed us all the way here. Seung Min even dared to approach Jujin. Young Master Jujin has truly grown into a steady man. Out of courtesy he bowed slightly. Thank you for coming. I truly appreciate it, of course. Congratulations on your graduation. Through the exchange, Sarkly also realized and understood whose son he was. He stepped closer to Seung Min and offered a brief greeting. Charles Curtis Curtis. They had only clasped hands. Sarkly veins bulged. I am Seung Min. I have long admired you, Senator. Despite the pain, Seung Min continued speaking about Hawaii and San Francisco. I organized the Korean American community. Kim Jujin stood nearby helplessly. Sir, your veins are bulging. Suddenly Dorothy Curtis took his arm. They looked at each other. He grew curious and asked, "Is it time?" Dorothy Curtis did not answer but asked back, "If not now then when?" Though Jujin feared she misunderstood, so he explained, I mean I still need to properly greet my future mother-in-law and one day bring my parents to Kansas. These things should be done after I give you what I must give." Dorothy Curtis' eyes held a trace of grievance. I have waited for this day for a long time. Kim Jujin finally understood her meaning. If you say so, then I must do it. The very next second he knelt before Dorothy Curtis. Kim Jujin opened the ring box, his tone solemn. Dorothy Curtis. Before he could say more, Dorothy Curtis frankly said, "Skip the ceremony, just give me the ring. I am in a hurry." Perhaps this was the first time Kim Jujin had seen such a scene. What girl would not want these things? He smiled and replied, "Perhaps only once, but I have waited too long." After hearing that, Jujin gradually understood. You are right, I am the one at fault. Without further delay, he directly placed the ring on Dorothy Curtis' finger. She gazed at the ring on her hand without looking away. Everyone present congratulated them. Jujin, congratulations, what a beautiful pair. Seung Min stood in a corner observing everything. He pressed his lips together, furious yet unable to act. Though Jean smiled faintly in satisfaction, I did not start dating Dorothy Curtis for this. But now that I have married into the Curtis family, you cannot touch me so easily. When Charles Curtis spoke, Sang Jun was stunned. Then let us move elsewhere. We have prepared a proper place to celebrate our son-in-law. He had barely spoken a few words when he received a slap. Son-in-law, how could my useless son marry the precious daughter of such a distinguished family? Could he? The CEO scolded with a dark expression. Why are you being so modest about your son's marriage prospects? The next second he cheerfully turned to Sarkly. Come on, let us go make way. Kim Jujin wondered, perhaps the future I saw was only an illusion. Do not worry, future father-in-law. Just then an officer approached him. Excuse me for a moment. Hunter informed Kim Jujin. Graduate Kim Jujin, a guest wishes to meet you privately, he politely said. Then please invite that person here for me. Hunter hesitated for a few seconds. The thing is that guest is a very important figure. Kim Jujin did not hurry over but asked back an important figure. Hunter grew impatient and urged, "Could you hurry? I do not want to keep such a guest waiting." He bluntly pointed at Sarkly and said, "More important than the Kansas senator standing here." Hunter turned away with an extremely awkward expression. "I will speak with him briefly and return." The more he heard, the more questions Kim Jujin had. Just who could make him react like that? The scene shifted to meeting Henry Ford. He began, "I never expected to meet you here, Senator." Charles Curtis slightly frowned with tension. "Neither did I. Had I known earlier, I would have prepared a more proper reception." He folded his arms across his chest, his tone firm. "So what brings you here regarding my son-in-law?" Henry Ford calmly replied. "So the two of them are related. I came to invest in the future of this young man." He took out a cigar and smiled. "I suppose I do not need to ask your permission first, correct?" Sarkly gently said, "Of course not, but someone with a bit of experience can still offer a few words about what is good and what is not." Henry Ford's words were simple yet full of implication, and from what I hear, the youth today call that meddling in others' affairs. The two of them burst into laughter together. Sitting between them, Jujin was drenched in sweat, lamenting inwardly, "I am dying from the pressure." Without beating around the bush, Henry Ford went straight to the point. "I presume you have heard." He spoke about what Jujin had written in his book. "I am particularly interested in the so-called rough-terrain combat tractor, the tank." Henry Ford looked extremely excited. "So that is the name you gave it, then I shall call it a tank as well." It comes solely to recruit him. "After all, I came here because I want to develop the tank you designed." Sarkly grew curious and asked, "Could you not use Henry Ford's outstanding team to manufacture it?" Henry Ford explained, "Of course I could, but a wise businessman always wants to gather many different opinions." Not only that, Henry Ford smiled brightly. Unlike politicians who do not need to hear opinions from those who will never vote for them. Two laughed loudly again. Only Jujin forced a smile, unsure what to do. He hesitated slightly and said to him, "I am only talking about a few fanciful dreams, not sure how much value they truly have." Before Henry Ford could speak, Charles Curtis interjected, "What are you saying? If it were useless, I would not have come all the way here." He looked at him in confusion. His father-in-law's expression was truly frightening. Perhaps Kim Jujin was highly regarded by Henry Ford. The senator was right. "I believe your idea is very valuable. That is why I came again despite being rejected before." He stared at him and asked, "Speak, what do you want?" Kim Jujin fell silent for a few seconds to think. This was a great opportunity but not in his data, so he felt somewhat tense. He clenched his hands to calm himself. "It is fine, no one can predict every variable. It is best to make full use of what is available." After careful consideration, Jujin finally spoke. "I presented his idea to the two men. I want to help poor Americans in San Francisco, those who are struggling." Henry Ford seemed to guess Kim Jujin's intention. "You mean charity? That is simple, I can support it for free," but he refused. "No." Kim Jujin's words made Henry Ford fall silent for a few seconds. "I want to teach them how to improve themselves, not just hand them everything." Hearing that, he immediately warned, "Do not tell me you want to build a factory, that is excessive. I see no benefit in building one in San Francisco." Kim Jujin replied, "I will do it myself." He smiled and said to Henry Ford, "I only need a little support, sir." He picked up paper and pen. "Very well, state the terms clearly." Kim Jujin and Sarkly listened to the terms. Kim Jujin agreed to share his ideas sincerely so the cars could be adjusted to circumstances. The terms also mentioned Sang Jun. A private company would be established to hold the patents. His father would receive shares and royalty. An imagined factory was about to begin operations. Kim Jujin's younger brother would establish the company and build the factory. Henry Ford would hold 30% and support operations. Charles Curtis nodded in agreement. "This is acceptable." Jujin smiled. "Thank you, father-in-law." Looked at him and said, "Of course I must care. Now you are family." Henry Ford placed the contract on the table. "From now on we cooperate. I hope for a good partnership." Kim Jujin smiled politely, thinking that at first he had wanted to do everything himself to remain independent. Both Henry Ford and Charles Curtis were watching him closely. Yet now he was bound by both great figures. The balance of power within the family was strange yet perfect. He sat in the middle as if balancing everything. Although Kim Jujin had the plan, his father-in-law handled the technical side. Henry Ford handled facilities and management. He only needed to produce. The difficult part belonged to Jujin. As expected, Jujin was tense over the documents on the table. "Hey boss, not sleeping yet. Dying and sleeping later would not be too late. Just kill me." Young Min frowned. "Come on, let us talk a bit." Kim Jujin turned back, thinking to himself, "Here it comes again." Politely asked, "What is the matter? I am the host if I disappear for long." Before he finished speaking, Seung Min jumped in. "Just a moment, it will not take long." He widened his eyes in tension. Despite his doubts, Kim Jujin still agreed. Followed Seung Min outside, he asked, "What do you think you are doing?" Seung Min's voice was sarcastic. "Kim Jujin, the senator, Henry Ford, you are taking on more than you can handle." He remained unmoved. "I do not understand what you mean," he shouted loudly. "You still do not understand." Seung Min revealed his true nature. "They are the type who exploit every opportunity from people like us." He poured it onto Jujin's head. "Koreans must be strong themselves. Do you not know our compatriots were dragged to build roads and then fell to the bottom of society?" Seung Min's face twisted unpleasantly. "Why bring those giants to stir up the Korean community?" Kim Jujin frowned. "You were the first to send me to West Point, so why speak like this now?" He pointed his finger. "That is different." Zeung Mi emphasized, "We are foreigners. This body will one day return to the homeland 3,000 miles away." He lowered his voice, trying to pull Kim Jujin to his side. "Then why not go to Hawaii with me? There you can truly love the homeland, Mr. Gunna." He radiated intense killing intent, "Sir. Calling us foreigners is excessive." Seung Min realized the problem and restrained his attitude. "What did you say?" Kim Jujin emphasized, "I am an American citizen and will devote myself to the peace and security of America." He looked at Seung Min fiercely. "If anyone heard that, they might question my loyalty. Such words are dangerous." During Jujin, he was stunned. "Do you intend to abandon your people?" Kim Jujin remained calm. "The Irish, Polish, and Jewish remember their roots yet remain loyal to America." He reminded him, "I do not object if you take advantage of America, but it becomes a problem if you force me to think that way." Seung Min had to respond. "You, after everything, I sent you to the academy and this is how you repay me." Everything gradually came to light. Kim Jujin asked, "Were you planning to introduce me to those Chinese?" Hearing further, Seung Min could not restrain his anger. "Those Chinese were polite, but you wanted me to reconnect with matters related to the leftist revolutionary movement. Even if one remembers the homeland, that kind of ideology goes too far." He grabbed Du Jin by the collar just as Chang Ho saw it. "You brat." He hurried to intervene. "Hey, Seung Min, what are you thinking? Chang Ho, we were deceived. The boy wants to sell out his own people to become rich." He was so furious he criticized the entire family. "This traitor, no, the whole family are traitors." Chang Ho was ashamed, calling a young man new to society a traitor. "Do you feel no shame?" Seung Min scolded a few more words then fell silent. "You do not know how much poison fills this boy's head. This ungrateful brat dares to speak." A familiar authoritative voice rang out. "What exactly?" Turned out Sakli was standing behind Kim Jujin. "What did you just say to my son-in-law?" Seung Min had to lower his arrogant tone to explain. "I think there is a misunderstanding, sir." Charles Curtis was stern. "I do not know what made you agitated, but this is not the place to behave like that." Kim Jujin honestly recounted. "He told me that after 4 years at West Point, I should abandon America and devote myself to Josie." Charles Curtis stepped ahead of Seung Min. "I will pretend I did not hear that. Please leave." He still tried to prove his innocence. "Listen to me. He is not as you think." Charles Curtis lost patience and directly expelled him. "I have said enough." Seung Min turned pale, sweat pouring down. He silently bowed to the two men, then turned and left. Kim Jujin said nothing, only watched Seung Min's retreating back. The relationship between me and Seung Min was completely shattered. Kim Jujin searched newspapers to understand the situation. After graduating and becoming a second lieutenant in the United States Army, he began studying the world to see where he would be deployed. A large ship sank before the graduation ceremony. Just as in history, the GMS Lusitania was sunk by a German submarine. At that time, America focused more on Mexico than the Atlantic. People stood at the harbor waiting for news. Dujin arranged events and reflected. Everything still followed the timeline. 2 more years before America declared war on Germany. He rested his hand against his chin, wondering if the first battlefield would likely be Mexico. Zizian cooked while assigning a task. Jujin, go buy some radishes. Obediently complied in a naive manner. "Yes, mother, I am unemployed now." As tensions on the US-Mexico border increased, I was eager to make use of my connections. Kim Jujin sat upright, writing every word in a letter to his father-in-law, hoping to be assigned to the front line. Reply came quickly. Sarkly reminded him to discuss it with Chairman Henry Ford. Dorothy Curtis cared about her child. He ranked second. I wrote a 3-page letter to Dorothy Curtis asking if I could go to the front line, while also sending a letter to my wife. Not long after, he received a handwritten letter from Henry Ford. He encouraged him not to die in a foreign land, to complete what he had started. Kim Jujin tilted his head back and laughed at the teasing words. Suddenly Yuzin appeared and suggested, "Hey, let us talk a bit, big brother." He responded gently, "My dear younger brothers, what is the matter?" Immediately he complained, "Do you not see us withering away?" Kim Jujin praised him, "Your geography is precise, good." Suddenly Yuxin angrily shouted, "Precise my head, it is all because of that damned barbed wire factory." Jujin quickly retorted, "Hey, I did it thinking of you, did I not? A yellow monkey running a factory, wonderful." He was furious, "If it is wonderful, why do you not do it yourself and hand it to me?" He looked at Yuzin gently, "Do you not feel my intention to give you good things?" Yuxin angrily pointed at him, then stomped his foot. "Enough. It is only because you do not want to do it yourself," Jujin clarified. "I am the one who came up with the business idea, opened exports, then let you handle making money. What is the problem?" He made Yuxin even more furious, asking if any boss in the world works 20 hours a day, and what was that damn gun factory about? Jujin was terrified by his sibling's wrath and explained, "Henry Ford has arranged everything for you, you don't need to do much." He kept blaming him if those tasks were forced upon him. Now he's drifting somewhere in the Pacific. Kim Jujin had to yield to his reasoning. All right, sorry, I really worked hard." "So what exactly is your problem, Kim Jujin?" He paused and asked again, "What's your problem, are you teasing me?" "That damn book, you put your name on it," he calmly replied. "Ah, that one, huh?" Yuzin was so angry he gritted his teeth. "Do you know what it feels like to be dragged away by the police at midnight?" And there was Agent Boy 2, Boy Bureau of Investigation, precursor to the FBI. Kim Jujin gaped in astonishment. "Oh," he yelled out in frustration, "oh what?" He eagerly spoke, "Boy, I've never met those big figures. It'll be fun to tell later while drinking." Yuzin immediately asked, "Do you want to become a story of the past?" Jujin quickly inquired, "So what happened next?" He recounted, "I was too scared, so I told them everything." He looked intently at Yuzin and asked, "Just told them that?" Yuzin quickly revealed, "No, then some men in suits came and said, if I confessed they'd treat me to good food, so I told everything." Kim Jujin began reasoning. So Henry Ford knew this big mouth of his was the source of all trouble. He suddenly stood up and declared, "All right, despite the tough times, everything is fine now, right?" At that moment Yuxin reminded, "Don't be reckless. One day your own subordinate will harm you. Here, take this, taken from a senator." Kim Jujin silently rejoiced, "Oh, finally my battlefield is ready." Suddenly he remembered, "Ah right, almost forgot." At this moment the train was speeding along the track. Sang Jun worried, "The wedding at least should prepare some dowry." Hearing this, Si Xian reassured, "They said just showing up is enough." Seeing this, Yuxin teased him, "How does it feel to be about to marry?" He stiffened. Kim Jujin struggled internally. "I have to say, I am extremely happy, but the road ahead is a battlefield where bullets fly like rain. If I die on the battlefield and Dorothy Curtis becomes too dependent." At this moment the bullet shot out of the barrel. In a flash the bullet, like a silver lightning streak, pierced straight into the target. Dorothy Curtis said, "If you're scared then don't enter the military academy," he replied, "but should this be discussed at the shooting range?" He felt like the target. At this moment she didn't hesitate to express her feelings. "It's not that I fear the future. I've heard too much about the hardships of being an officer's wife, always living in anxiety. If you want, I can arrange a safe desk job in Washington, but your goal cannot be achieved that way, right?" Jin lowered his eyes, shy to face her, voice softening, "That's right." Dorothy Curtis stepped closer, firmly, "Then you must go. If you don't return, I'll wear armor and cry for about 5 years. He was shocked. Only 5 years, why so few?" She teased Kim Jujin, "If there's someone handsome, ambitious, and considerate like you, pursuing me while young, who knows what would happen?" He, with teary eyes, looked at Dorothy Curtis. "No, you must know." She quickly requested, "If you don't want that, then survive. I really don't want to see you return in a coffin." Kim Jujin was silent for a while. Suddenly he spoke, "Don't worry, I won't die and leave you." The wedding was held quite simply. I say quite simple because, even though it was later the daughter of a senator, by their standards, it was already simple. Jujin reassured himself with a mantra, "I am a machine." Charles Curtis beside him encouraged, "Go ahead, son-in-law." After the wedding I went to Washington, D.C., and could meet Senator Curtis and President Henry Ford. Henry Ford asked, "You want to go to the battlefield?" He replied, "Yes, sir." Immediately he expressed his view, "Honestly, I don't recommend it." Kim Jujin was curious, "Are you worried the investment will fail miserably?" Charles Curtis interjected, "It's not that issue. If you want, I could put him in diplomacy or the arsenal." He stammered, "Sir, so." He gestured to Henry Ford. Understanding Charles Curtis, he mentioned his skin color. "The issue is skin color." Though Kim Jujin was resentful, persistent as hell, he reassured, "You knew beforehand, now small requests are useless." He calmly asked, "What exactly is the issue?" Charles Curtis analyzed, "When you command, will white soldiers obey?" Kim Joo-jin was confident, "I'll make them follow every minor detail." Henry Ford revealed that this approach wouldn't solve the problem. "Any trouble in command, racists will use as reason to demote you. In the War Department, some view you through a racial lens. This is not as simple as you think." He pondered. Henry Ford announced, "The good news is someone appreciates you." Kim Joo-jin probed, "So is there a compromise plan?" He offered the best proposal. "Choice one is the Philippines." He was shocked. "Philippines," Henry Ford said. "The post in the Philippines isn't bad. Build a service record, then return." That's the first informal suggestion. Kim Joo-jin assessed objectively. "Sounds like he's Asian, so fit for the Philippines," he sighed. "I knew you'd say that." Proposal 2 is the Singapore Aviation Department. Aviation sector heard about you somewhere, excited, saying their time has come. He wondered, "What if I go there?" Henry Ford emphasized, "You'll become a pilot if you go to aviation. Knowing how to fly benefits your career." Charles Curtis worried, "Airplane hub. If you fall from a plane, won't you become a star in the sky?" Joo-jin instinctively felt, "Seems dangerous." He approached Kim Joo-jin and ordered, "Go to the Philippines. Don't think of making my daughter too dependent." He was terrified. Aviation is not allowed. He excitedly said, "Then develop weapons and military doctrine." Kim Joo-jin replied cautiously, "No." Henry Ford was surprised. "Why refuse before hearing?" He replied, "I was just thinking, I'm not good at mechanics. Shallow knowledge will show," then stuck there. Though Kim Joo-jin seemed to understand, "I clearly see he intends to drain taxpayer money." He sighed helplessly. "There's one last option. I originally intended not to mention. As said, in the War Department some are biased against you. Arguing loyalty is questionable." He felt like, "Oh my God, with me graduating West Point." Henry Ford countered, "No, slightly different. Logically, when national interests conflict, you might not side with the USA." Joo-jin was stunned. He said, "That's right, between the USA and Korea, you might side with Korea. Therefore, proving loyalty to the USA is the final proposal." He guessed that proposal is. Henry Ford sighed helplessly. Joo-jin guessed it was Tokyo. He made a suggestion, "So, one of the four, choose. Where will you go?" Kim Joo-jin sat at the desk, writing the complete report. He wrote while mesmerized. Needless to say, I did not choose Japan. A Josian in American uniform walking with Japan. Bullets of righteous independence would surely come toward me immediately. In the end, there was no other choice. I was forced to join the War Department to take charge of weapons development and military strategy. Kim Joo-jin quickly reached a conclusion. His father-in-law and Chairman Henry Ford must have foreseen this situation. Perhaps they had already planned to push me into the War Department. That way I would not go seeking danger on the battlefield, and Chairman Ford could keep me close and make me work tirelessly. Even so, I have no choice but to prove my usefulness here." He went to Cooper's office and knocked on the door, hearing the man order him to come in. "Second Lieutenant Kim Joo-jin, what is the matter?" Thinking quickly, I immediately made a proposal. "I want to present an idea about deploying machine guns." Cooper shook his head at once. "Congress will not agree to purchase machine guns for us." Adapting swiftly, I proposed another plan. "Then I suggest making greater use of trucks as transport vehicles." That man retorted that if they would not buy machine guns, did he think they would buy trucks? Kim Joo-jin quickly shifted to another option. "Then what about trenches?" Cooper immediately revealed that the boys fighting in Europe would share battlefield data, so just wait. He stood frozen for a few seconds, as all his proposals had been rejected in the blink of an eye. Kim Joo-jin muttered while chewing his bread, "Damn it. That is right, this is the U.S. Army. The fault lies in my excessive expectation. The Army may not be clever, but there is another reason as well. After several months working here, it became clear I am the isolated one. I cannot really be blamed. Just look at how many powerful figures are fighting over the authority to assign me, even turning a storage room into my private office. Fine, forget all that. Focus on developing the tank. At present, that is the only field showing any progress." On March 9, 1916, Mexican guerrillas under Pancho Villa crossed the border and attacked New Mexico, killing 17 Americans. This was the first attack on U.S. soil since the Spanish-American War. The entire nation was shaken. President Wilson immediately summoned General Pershing and ordered support for Mexico by capturing Pancho Villa. He stared intently at the file on the desk. Even after Kim Joo-jin used his intellect to analyze it, if Henry Ford built the tank according to the current design, it would only be a machine gun-mounted vehicle. It needed a turret capable of rotating 360 degrees. There was no need for too many turrets, nor excessive focus on anti-armor. Perhaps I will combine the Renault tank design with Henry Ford's. He went to the factory and handed the engineers a blueprint. Kim Joo-jin requested that they follow this drawing. One of the engineers spoke with disdain. "What is this supposed to be? How are we supposed to build this?" He replied calmly, "I do not know, that is your job. I did not ask for a Bluetooth showerhead." Under Kim Joo-jin's guidance and design, the engineers completed the tank as required. Kim Joo-jin observed the tank's operating mechanism. "Just look at it running. If only my military career were as smooth as this." Suddenly George approached and said, "So this is the armored tractor Henry Ford is developing." He looked at Kim Joo-jin with a focused gaze. He was surprised. "Who is this? I did not hear that anyone was coming today." Dressed in civilian clothes, perhaps from a partner company or the State Department. He looked wealthy. Joo-jin immediately stood at attention and said he was Second Lieutenant Kim Joo-jin, currently serving as a development advisor for this weapon in the U.S. Army. George Ben probed whether he was Kim Joo-jin. Kim Joo-jin quickly asked where he was from. He asked for $4. Kim Joo-jin had not yet reacted when he blurted out what. George immediately made an offer. If he was so curious, then $4, a bit pricey perhaps. There was no need to know who he was, just tell him what this armed tractor could do. Kim Joo-jin revealed that at present they called it a tank. Would he like to watch a field test? He asked excitedly. That it sounded good. Then let us go, come on. Kim Joo-jin was filled with indignation inside. If this man truly was just a civilian who sneaked in, I will deal with him personally. Kim Joo-jin ordered the tank to stop. He explained seriously that as he could see, it was quite fast and agile, and handled rough terrain well. George showed little interest in his achievement. Cavalry could do the same without difficulty. He had heard the European battlefield was far worse than this testing ground, full of shell craters. Could this really be called a test? Kim Joo-jin replied calmly that the army would not lend them artillery. They had already sent several prototypes to Europe and would receive battlefield reports. He gave his personal remark that it was not very attractive. Kim Joo-jin quickly spoke up. "Sir, George assessed that the engine noise was too loud and unnecessary, and it was not very agile. A cavalryman only needed to turn and fire at once." Kim Joo-jin felt irritated by his relentless criticism. Did this man think he was a prince? He answered firmly that the turret on top could rotate 360 degrees and attack from all directions. George turned and walked away, but did not forget to mock that it was still slower than a human, was it not? He knocked hard against the iron plating of the tank. Kim Joo-jin explained that friction was limited by engine power. George Lin retorted that it was not that. George ordered the men inside to get down. He would drive it for a lap. Kim Joo-jin explained that it was a two-seat vehicle, sir. George suggested that he get in with him quickly. He hurriedly jumped into the tank. When he stepped out of the tank, George laughed loudly that it was unbearably cramped. Hearing that, Kim Joo-jin asked how it felt. He replied casually that he liked it, though he still thought it inferior to cavalry. It had its own charm. Only how did he plan to handle fuel supply? He revealed that they would supply fuel like everything else. George bluntly reproached that every added item in the supply chain made life more miserable. "Hey rookie," Kim Joo-jin replied calmly whether he had ever participated in a real campaign. He laughed loudly that if they had allowed him to go he would not be here. "Those people in the War Department are truly stubborn fools." Then our passionate Lieutenant Kim. Does he not want to see the battlefield? Does he not want to drive the iron lump he helped create? Kim Joo-jin sighed helplessly, crossing the front line and blowing off the heads of the enemies of the glorious Federation. Hearing that, George shouted excitedly that he liked it. "Then go home and pack." Kim Joo-jin asked what he meant. He announced that General Pershing wanted someone to go see that iron lump. Kim Joo-jin was stunned. General Pershing, so that meant. George immediately confirmed that yes, he and Lieutenant George would head to the cactus-filled taco land to earn merit. Only then did Kim Joo-jin realize that George, wait, more importantly, he was the same rank as me. George urged enthusiastically what he was standing there for. "Rookie, hurry and prepare." Kim Joo-jin felt bewildered, afraid that he had truly gotten entangled with an eccentric. San Francisco. George kept moving his legs incessantly. Kim Joo-jin glanced at George, wondering if this man had ADS and could not sit still. Kim Joo-jin said that arranging everything would take quite a long time. He turned back and said that was exactly why he should go with him and report the mission first. Right now, did he know how to ride a horse? Kim Joo-jin replied that he had learned at West Point. George laughed with delight that it was enough. "Let us go." Although Kim Joo-jin felt helpless before him, I cannot keep up with this man's level of energy. George kicked open the headquarters door and strode in excitedly. "General, your chicken has arrived." Kim Joo-jin felt anxious, sweat forming on his forehead. He had just kicked open the headquarters door like that. Everyone here seemed used to it. Joseph stood up and said that he was the one involved with the new weapon Henry Ford was developing. Kim Joo-jin was utterly astonished. That man thought inwardly that he had not expected to meet him here. The legend of the First World War, the embodiment of the U.S. Army and the future commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Joseph stared at him, making him feel extremely anxious. He warmly welcomed Kim Joo-jin, very pleased to meet him. I am John Joseph, which surprised him, Joseph Pershing. Joseph immediately inquired, so you came alone. Kim Joo-jin returned the salute. No, General. The tank dismantling work is ongoing at the depot. He seemed surprised, so why not stay to oversee the repairs? He awkwardly replied, that matter is. Seeing that George quickly explained, I suggested coming to report first, General. Joseph spoke up, really, reporting is more important than overseeing goods. He did not hesitate to speak plainly. The meeting between the great Joseph and the dark horse of the U.S. Army, isn't that more important than anything else? Suddenly he went silent, saying nothing further. Joseph looked directly at George, startling him. George hurried to explain that overseeing the goods is currently handled by Henry Ford's engineer, so I thought Kim could do other things here. Furthermore, regarding the specifications and performance of the new weapon, I believe hearing a direct report from those in charge would better assist the next plan. He sighed helplessly. This time I'll let it go, Kim Joo-jin thought. So that's the significance, truly the demeanor of a future 4-star general. He turned his head and whispered an apology. I just spoke recklessly. Joseph quickly sat down and requested, sit. As George said, first we will hear the report. Immediately George replied, yes sir. Looked at George with suspicious eyes, startling him. George immediately stood, disguised as a servant. What would you like to drink? Joseph seemed helpless. Water is enough. He turned to Kim Joo-jin and asked, and you, Kim? Kim calmly replied, water is fine for me. Joo-jin felt the tense atmosphere. He began analyzing. The objective of this campaign is to test various new weapons. Aircraft, radio communication systems, armored vehicles, and the tanks you brought. George, after seeing those tanks, how do you evaluate them? He answered confidently, I believe they will be key players on future battlefield. Kim Joo-jin was shocked by his words. No, in Detroit he didn't say that. Fraud, George hurried to explain. Adaptability to difficult terrain, close and medium fire support, and good survivability. In the future, frontline soldiers attacking will beg to have tanks beside them. Joseph praised him. I appreciate your assessment. Unlike before, he said, I still have a negative view on logistics and maintenance. However, I see future hope from those tanks. During that, he began to ponder. Suddenly, George stood up and shouted, so these tanks are the future of cavalry. If you lend me a unit of tanks and cavalry, I will surely bring back the head of the Taco gang leader. Joseph replied, the order from DC is to capture him alive, not just bring back a corpse, and you are my assistant, not a commander. During this, he remained unshaken and shouted, as long as that bastard isn't smashed by tank fire, I will capture him alive. Then please give me authority. Joo-jin sat beside, worried, don't do that. The living conditions of my precious tanks are still undetermined. He calmly said, General, may I give my opinion? He immediately spoke. Opinions from those in charge are always welcome. Kim Joo-jin confidently replied, the tanks themselves are giant shields. Essentially, their design targets what frontline soldiers need most. George raised his voice, whether superior or not. I still won't give them to the cavalry, he yelled at Kim Joo-jin. Are you going to waste this excellent mobility on infantry? Facing an enraged George, Kim Joo-jin calmly countered, first, mobility depends on the battlefield situation. As independent operation may be needed, we considered this from the start. Joseph quickly settled the dispute. All right, I understand for now. Which branch the tanks will go to I will decide after consulting the staff. George guided Kim to the camp and helped him complete administrative procedures. The meeting ended. George said, yes sir. The next day he was extremely surprised. What split in half? He explained that the final decision was made because there are 4 tanks, 2 for cavalry and 2 for infantry. Yuji remarked, truly a decision in the style of King Solomon. Suddenly George became furious, loudly scolding. If there were only 1 or 2, it wouldn't make any difference. Imagine hundreds of tanks rushing toward a target, whether Mexican or German troops would be crushed. He couldn't help admiring, this guy must have fought in the Mac universe. He quickly turned to leave while requesting, then let's go, show the expeditionary troops the new civilization. Kim Joo-jin replied, yes, emotin, oh no, Sir George. Ryder blinked in confusion, you mean we go by truck? His colleague disagreed, loudly opposing, if the truck breaks the march halts. If corpses block the way we cannot continue, no. Soldiers must march on foot, how can we use a truck? It's an insult to our unit. Felt at the end of helplessness, knew it would be like this. The U.S. Army boomers from 1900s. George went mad and shouted, shut up and get on the truck. Ryder stubbornly refused to yield. Trucks are useful for transporting supplies, but we cannot use them to wait for soldiers. He got angry and shouted, damn it, get on. If you march on foot and lose the villa's trail, it's your responsibility. However, the deeper into Mexico, the more their boomer spirit showed, as bad roads caused continuous truck breakdowns, making them increasingly useless. Kim Jujin thought hard. Could the US have won the World War with this state? George erupted. I cannot endure the enemy anymore. He glanced at George and thought, indeed, seeing this frustrating situation, someone with his temper getting angry is understandable. Could not keep calm enough. I volunteer for the battlefield. How long must I pour water for generals? Why not use attendants? Why me? Kim Jujin seemed to understand everything. Ah, so that's it. George's rage intensified. Finally, Joseph reluctantly tossed George a unit like throwing a bone to a dog. George ran happily to him, lacking Kim's consent. Finally, the moment to grasp glory arrived. He flipped back in amazement. He arrogantly pointed at Kim Jujin and said, "That's right. Wouldn't you be angry if I took all the credit alone?" I strongly requested Kim to go with me. He was puzzled. What the hell is he saying now? How did my mission become such trash? Because if I command, the soldiers would leave, hence this. George arrogantly declared, "Now let's go. Ahead lies glory." At this moment, Jujin felt regret. Truly my fault for thinking nothing would happen alongside this madman. So, 2 tanks, 3 armored vehicles carrying 10 infantry plus 10 cavalry, a terrifying hybrid unit was born, mixing George's cavalry and the infantry with the tanks I brought. He felt uncertain. How am I supposed to command this? He arrogantly announced, "Soldiers, from now on with me, George, you will become the iron hammer of justice, protecting the good citizen." Brian did not hesitate to request, "Sir, may we rest a bit before departure?" Ryder continuously complained, "Too hot, rest a moment then go." Kim Jujin began reasoning, "Are these guys practicing siesta just because we're going to Mexico? Right, since I'm not officially the commander but just borrowing troops, discipline will surely be chaotic. The other is George. If I don't mediate now, someone might die." He sought to dispel the deadly atmosphere. "Come on, we all know everyone is suffering from the heat. The bandits surely rest during the day too, so attacking then would be easier, just a bit more." He was arrogant, belittling and racially discriminating Kim Jujin. But why? Damn, a yellow monkey dares to command others. He felt insulted. Rage surged to his brain. Brian frowned. He shouted loudly, "Damn monkey, who do you think you are to order others?" George remained silent, but the veins on his neck showed his anger. He suddenly stepped forward. He punched Brian in the face before Yuzin's astonished eyes. "That bastard." Yuzin was bewildered, not understanding what was happening. George approached Brian. "Damn it, dare call an officer almost like a god a monkey, dare to perform this trick in front of me." Brian fearfully sank down. "Wait." George with fierce eyes did not spare him. He raised his fist at him. "Today you won't die by taco hands but by mine." Before the fearful, cautious soldiers, Brian screamed in pain, swinging his arms causing his syrup to spurt out. Yuzin saw this scene, hesitating. "Should I stop him? No, I'll just be beaten too." Brian collapsed to the ground, trembling, syrup flowing from his nose. The target identified. George approached him and asked, "Do you have siblings?" Brian's trembling voice replied, "I have a sister." George's voice suddenly became serious. "While Kim was making history as the first West Point graduate in your miserable life, have you ever had a first of anything?" Brian's eyes bruised, face covered in blood, silently regretting, not daring to answer. "You weren't even the first to leave your mother's womb, yet dare speak, yellow monkey." George grabbed him by the collar and yanked him up. "If you die it will only be a notice on the match report, but if Kim dies it will be front page news in the New York Times." He shouted in his face, "Do not act superior just because you were lucky enough to inherit fair skin from your parents." Brian trembled, weakly looked at George and apologized. "I was wrong, I sincerely apologize." George glared at him and threatened, "Today I will be watching you. If you go to the battlefield and cannot even take down a taco, I will bring you before a military court. Do you understand?" Brian could only tremble as he replied, "Understood, sir." George flew into a rage and shouted at the soldiers around him, demanding to know whether they understood. The soldiers stood at attention, tense, and answered in unison, loud and clear. After setting Brian down on the ground, George turned to Kim Jujin, his face no longer as ferocious as before, and said gently, "Yes, senior." George spoke to him seriously, "I understand your personality, but communication is not only about showing gentleness." He raised his syrup-covered fist and said, "From now on, if you want to be a commander, act in silence and fight. For you, using your fists may be easier than using words." George's words made Kim Jujin reflect. Am I really that gentle? If Ike and Omar heard this they probably would not be able to stop laughing. Looked at George covered in syrup, but thinking about that crazy alpha's personality, perhaps he really did look gentle. Seeing this, Yuzin spoke up. You do not need to set an example like that, George replied. If I did not go this far, why would I bring you along? George pointed at Yuzin's chest and said seriously, I need you, I need this tank as well. Soldiers outside did not dare move. How you deal with them is up to you. George frowned and warned Kim Jujin, if you cannot control your army, then you will be the one to bear the consequences. Kim Jujin answered seriously, yes, sir. He realized that he now understood why this commander had become a 4-star general. Brian, his face covered in bruises, stepped toward Yuzin and gave a military salute. I am sorry. It was too hot and I lost my temper. Looking at Brian, Yuzin hesitated, unsure how to deal with this man. Thinking back, if it were George, he would probably rage and shout. How to deal with him? You smash him down so he never dares to raise his head again. However, unlike George, Joseph gently advised, he has been beaten enough. Why not give him a way out? Yuzin felt puzzled inside. General, why did you appear so suddenly? Before Yuzin could respond, George spoke up. I told you, people like him only understand when they are beaten. What do you know? Joseph looked at George with a sharp and serious gaze. This made George feel a trace of guilt. After the conversation, Yuzin decided to step closer to Brian and asked if he was seriously injured. Brian hurriedly replied, no sir. Kim Jujin added, as you can see, my senior has a fiery temper. Yuzin smiled faintly and encouraged Brian, we will have to rely on each other to survive, so try to get along. Brian shyly introduced himself. Yes, I am Private Brian. Kim Jujin replied, all right, as you know, I am Kim Jujin. He pointed at the tank in front of him. My mission is to command that tank. Brian looked toward the tank and asked, if we ride that, we will not die, right? Kim Jujin explained, unless those taco bastards bring artillery and fire directly at it, otherwise it will be fine. An image of soldiers holding the United States flag fighting on tanks appeared in his mind. You are truly fortunate. You will go down in history as the first United States soldiers to fight alongside tanks. Yuzin turned and walked forward, saying, now complete the final inspection. Brian immediately saluted, understood. Inside the wooden house, under the blazing sunlight, George crossed his arms and stood facing Kim Jujin, asking, how is the situation with the troops? Kim Jujin answered calmly, for now it is stable, but George noticed that Kim Jujin seemed tense and advised, you worry too much. Sometimes fighting only requires following instinct. If you keep thinking like that, you will never gain the trust of the soldiers. Yuzin could only force a smile. As long as I prove my ability, they will accept me. Hearing this, George angrily shouted, if they had brains and still accepted that, they would not have joined the army, they would have taken other jobs in society. Yuzin felt irritated inside. You are a soldier and you talk like that, you lunatic. Then he slammed the paper onto the table. All right, look at this. On the paper were aerial photographs. He pointed at the map here. I have extremely reliable intelligence that the bandits are here. Yuzin said to Trevor, the interpreter, I have also confirmed through the locals. Help me translate. Trevor conveyed Yuzin's words to the villagers. Tell me what happened in this village. Trevor translated what the villagers said. They claimed that the Vilista forces had occupied the village and were committing brutal acts. They said the villagers were waiting for the United States Army to arrive. Kim Jujin understood what they said because he spoke Spanish and had lived for many years with Anastasio. Kim Jujin observed the villagers. He only used an interpreter for convenience, as the difference in accent between Mexicans and Filipinos was quite large. Kim Jujin frowned but looked at them suspiciously. These guides were highly suspicious. In Kim Jujin's mind appeared images of gunmen attacking men and bullying women. In Mexico, Pancho Villa was a revolutionary hero, a friend of the peasants. A Robin Hood of the 20th century. Would a man who had overthrown a regime destroy the support of the people? Of course, it was also possible that his subordinates had acted on their own, but the villagers waiting for the United States Army sounded like Koreans saying they welcomed the Japanese army. Yuzin asked George, should we not investigate more carefully? George replied respectfully, Junior Kim, I truly value your meticulousness and serious attitude. George clenched his fist and struck his chest, but in the end intelligence was still just belief. Pointed at the people and said, if they are truly innocent Mexicans seeking help and we respond with interrogation, who will dare to help us in the future? Then George turned to Yuzin and said, you are right, but I do not deny that something feels off. George clenched his fist and slammed it hard onto the table, however. Frowned and said seriously, even if this is a trap, we can still crush them with force. George had already decided as commander, I have made my decision, prepare. EUIN stood at attention and gave a standard military salute. Yes, sir. Outside in the yard, George stood excitedly on the tank and shouted, now move out. Holding a sword as he stood atop the tank, he shouted, it is time to wipe out a few taco bastards. Meanwhile, Yuzin rode his horse beside the tank and looked toward George's tank, wondering, in any case our division of forces really should be changed. He could only lower his head helplessly and sigh, but what else could he do? A good soldier must obey orders. Tightened the reins, preparing for his first sortie. Then came George's loud shout, "Move out," and the troops quickly advanced forward. Before them was an abandoned compound. One person proactively raised binoculars and observed carefully. Within sight appeared a luxurious villa. Kim Jujin immediately reported, "There is a high chance they are inside the mansion on the hilltop." George quickly assessed, "With this terrain it is impossible to avoid being exposed." Jujin continued briefly, "Then what is your order?" George did not hesitate and decided, "We will charge straight in. One cannon shot will be enough." Suddenly a series of whistles rang out, surprising him. "What is that?" Kim Jujin replied in a low voice, "The bell is ringing." George snapped irritably, "I have ears. You think I am asking that?" Mock, "Those bastards are ringing the alarm for themselves. Observe carefully." Kim Jujin seriously judged that it might be a signal that they had discovered us. George concluded decisively, or they are trying to escape and using the alarm. He immediately ordered 6 cavalry to circle behind the mansion and block their retreat. The subordinates responded at once, "Yes." He issued clear orders, "Infantry and tanks advance straight into the mansion. The remaining 4 cavalry follow me." The cavalry group answered briefly, "Yes." George called Kim Jujin, "Commander Kim." He hurriedly replied, "I am listening." George waved his hand to give the order, "Lead the infantry and tanks forward." After 2 minutes, Kim Jujin quickly shouted, "Yes." Without wasting time, he continued directing the troops. Tank number 2 advanced through the main gate. The tank aimed straight at the compound and charged forward. It forcefully smashed through the main gate, clearing the way for the cavalry behind. Taco's forces began to resist by firing continuously. George did not waver. He shouted loudly, "The Taco bastards are firing. Fire back. Do not panic. You idiots, tanks do not explode easily. Use it as cover and advance slowly." Thanks to the tank opening the way, the cavalry group behind successfully penetrated inside. Everything was going according to plan. Kim Jujin paid close attention to the watch on his wrist. He noticed that the cavalry group seemed tense. Kim Jujin took the initiative and asked, "Are you nervous?" A cavalryman quickly denied, "No, sir." Kim Jujin stepped closer to them. "It is fine, good." Kim Jujin declared clearly, "This monster standing beside you today will not be meeting the King of Hell. You're just on a picnic, collecting taco skulls and bringing them back." He raised his voice and asked, as the squad understood, their morale was soaring at this moment, "Yes, sir." Kim Jujin carefully checked his watch once more. When the moment came, he immediately gave the attack order. Tank number 1 breached the wall. A cavalryman hesitated and asked, "Breach the wall, sir." Jujin impatiently urged, "Fire, idiot." Shells slammed into the corner of the wall ahead. After the path was cleared, Jujin issued firm commands. Tank number 1 advance, armored vehicle follow closely. We will flank the mansion and crush everything. 2 frightened enemies appeared before him. Kim Jujin did not hesitate and ordered, "Fire, cowards." Cavalry easily took down the 2 enemies in an instant. Kim Jujin swiftly issued the highest directive. "Anyone not in uniform and moving is a target. Shoot immediately." The cavalry answered loudly, "Understood." A sudden rain of bullets fiercely struck toward the tank. Kim Jujin hurriedly ordered, "Move. Use the armored vehicle as cover." Everyone immediately took shelter behind the sturdy tank. Kim Jujin slammed his hand against the vehicle and shouted toward the armored crew, "What are you doing? Sweep them out." From inside, they still seemed stunned. Jujin punched again, his patience exhausted, shouting, "Sweep the 2nd floor with the machine gun. Keep firing so they dare not show themselves." Upon hearing the order, the tank immediately unleashed continuous fire. Kim Jujin immediately commanded, "Maintain fire, the rest dismount and enter the building." After receiving the order, 2 cavalrymen got down at once and moved in. Kim Jujin shouted, "Open your eyes and hold your sector." Carefully observing the battlefield, he thought, "Good, keep this pace." Kim Jujin turned to ask Jose and Carlos, "Hey, is there a back door or any escape route?" Carlos panicked, sweating all over. "What should we do?" Jose was no less flustered. "What do we do?" He cried out in fear, "We are finished. How can we fight that armored monster?" Jose firmly declared, "What the hell are you saying? Our boss can still take that thing down." Carlos turned to threaten Kim Jujin, "Then I will deal with you first," but his gun was already aimed at him. Without another word, he quickly took down the 2 spies. He collapsed hard onto the sand and stopped moving. Jose screamed, "What the hell?" Jujin lowered his voice and threatened him in his native tongue, "I speak Spanish, idiot. Talk unless you want your head to explode like his." Seeing Jose draw his gun, Jujin immediately shot him down. After dealing with the 2 spies, he muttered angrily, "Damn it, I went too far from the unit. I should have left one alive for capture and interrogation. Such a rookie mistake. Suddenly he remembered, Juan George also has a taco beside him, does he not? Returning to the battle, 2 cavalrymen were hiding behind the tank. Kim Jujin's voice rang out angrily, idiots, hey. Bastards, your officer is being shot from behind, and what are you doing? A cavalryman fearfully explained. The resistance is too strong. Kim Jujin angrily shouted, damn it, this is insane. Ignoring his subordinates' attempts to stop him, he rushed toward the tank himself. Lieutenant, it is too dangerous. At last, Jujin reached the tank hatch. Damn it, that hurts. He opened the hatch and faced the cavalryman inside. Lieutenant, your neck is bleeding. Kim Jujin grabbed his collar and bluntly ordered, it is just a scratch, idiot, move aside, I will handle it myself. The cavalryman stared in shock. What? The urgent moment, Kim Jujin roared, shut up and get out. He looked at the driver's seat inside the tank. Though irritated, Kim Jujin sat down. Damn it is cramped in here. Cursed directly at his subordinate. Bastard, are you trying to kill all our men? Why are you not firing the main gun? The man could only tremble and apologize. Sorry, sir. Jujin urgently ordered, do not apologize to me. Apologize to your mother and load the main gun. The cavalryman immediately complied. Understood. After aiming at the balcony, he shouted, fire. The shell shot out at terrifying speed, blasting a section of wall and causing a thunderous explosion. After clearing the way, Jujin drove forward. We ram in here, hold tight. He personally drove the tank ahead. Tacos quickly regrouped to attack Jujin. They continuously poured bullets into the tank. Jujin ordered the cavalry to sweep them with the machine gun. After taking down the tacos, he aimed at the balcony and fired the main gun. The cavalryman nervously said, but there are people inside, sir. Jujin angrily shouted, fire. The shell pierced through the lower floor without resistance. Kim Jujin swiftly ordered a full assault. I will open a hole for you, then all of you move in and clean up. He urgently directed the troops to push inside, move quickly. After that, Jujin opened the tank hatch and stepped out. Cavalry had completely taken control of the situation. The tacos helplessly raised both hands and cried out in despair, we surrender. Only then could Kim Jujin finally breathe a sigh of relief. He touched the wound on his neck and muttered, damn it, this is exhausting.